Good evening to those of you who are joining us now. Council did meet at 6 o'clock for a special meeting. We're now moving on to our regular meeting for March 9th, 2026, and I'll call the meeting to order. And now we'll have Pledge of Allegiance led by our town clerk, Lee Carney.
Thank you. Please stand. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, republic for which it stands, God, indivisible, with liberty.
Thank you, Lee. Joining me on the dais tonight is Councilor Karen Korenthal, Councilor Renu Engelhardt. I'm Councilor Mark Schwager. Councilors Michael Zarella and Michael Donegan are absent tonight. The first item on our agenda here is public comment. So if there's anyone in the audience who'd like to make a comment related to an item that is not on the agenda, please come forward and you can make your comment at this time. Anybody online who'd like to make a comment? If not, we will close public comment and move on to acknowledgements. Tonight, we have a commendation for Carla Swanson for serving 6 years on the Municipal Land Trust. Is Carla here tonight? So we will make sure Carla gets her commendation for her service. Carla was originally appointed in February 2020. She resigned in January 2026. And while she was on the land trust, the Tanner Clark property and the Pine Lister properties were secured by the town to protect open space. Together, they protected approximately 170 acres of open space west of Route 2. So it was a significant accomplishment that was completed while Carla was on the land trust. So we thank her very much for her service. The next item is the consent calendar.
Motion.
I'm sorry. I'll take a motion to approve the commendation for Carla.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0. The next item is a consent calendar. These are items of routine nature which can be approved as a group unless one of the councilors would like something pulled off to discuss separately. So the items on the consent calendar tonight: 4A, minutes from the February 2nd, 2026 regular meeting of the council. 4B is minutes from the February 9th joint meeting with the school committee and regular meeting of the town council. 4C is award of bid to Aries Chemical, Univar Solutions, and Solvents and Petroleum Services for the purchase of wastewater treatment plant chemicals per the enclosed tabulation sheet. This item was submitted and recommended for approval by our Department of Public Works Director, Fred Gomes. The funding is from the Wastewater Treatment Facility Enterprise Fund for 2027. Anybody would like any items pulled off?
Oh, thank you.
If not, I'll ask for a motion to approve the consent calendar in its entirety.
So moved.
Motion is second. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries 3-0. We do have a number of people here for the public hearing, so we're going to delay our reports and presentations till later in this meeting. So for public hearing, we have 3 items. The first one is 6A, an application for transfer of a Class BV alcoholic beverage license with Vittling from Blackstone East Greenwich Incorporated, doing business as Blackstone EG, to Ferraras on Main Street, doing business as Ferraras on Main, located at 241 Main Street. Are there any people here for this application? Yes, please come forward. You can be sworn in.
I do. Louis Ferrara Jr.
Good evening, Mr. Ferrara. The first thing I'm going to do is ask our town clerk to update us on the status of this application.
Thank you. Okay, so this is a transfer. As you noted, some of the highlights from the application were that it is going to be continuing on as a full-service restaurant. The application does not include any live entertainment. The hours would be Monday through Thursday, 4 p.m. to 11 p.m., Friday and Saturday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Sunday, 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. The seating remains exactly the same with a maximum of 46 seats. The applicant did apply for a seasonal expansion for 4 seats outside. However, that was going to require reapproval by the Department of Transportation because it has to do with the insurance of the owner. So Dan and I are going to work together. I think he's already started that process. So as the weather gets nicer, we will help him work towards that. This is a grandfathered location, so there's no parking required. And for pending approvals, I've got local approval pending from the fire marshal. And I'm also just waiting for the Rhode Island Department of Health to issue the food business license and the Rhode Island Secretary of State's office to provide the retail sales tax permit. Insurance is in place and the transfer was approved by the Division of Taxation.
Thank you. Mr. Ferrara, do you want to tell us a little bit about your business and how it will be operating?
Yeah, as of right now, our plan is to keep it roughly the same for the next, 2 to 4 months. There will be ultimately end up being like a menu change, rebranding. Still going to stay as a steakhouse, not trying to change the concept much over there, anything like that.
Very good. Any questions from the council? It sounds like there's really no changes in the requirements. Entertainment, any plans
No
for the
plans.
future? And the outdoor seating at four seats?
Yes, correct.
Very good. There is a public hearing going on here, so if any members of the public have questions for this applicant or about this application, please raise their questions now. Anybody present or on the Zoom platform? No comments from the public. Any other questions or comments from the council? If not, I'd make a motion to approve an application for transfer of a Class BV full alcoholic beverage license with Vittling from Blackstone EG, doing business as Blackstone EG, to Ferraras on Main Street, doing business as Ferraras on Main, 241 Main, for a period of 30 days, subject to full compliance as determined by the town clerk.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0. Welcome.
Thank you
Good
very
luck.
much. Thank you.
Our next item is 6B. This is also an application for transfer of a Class BV full alcoholic beverage license with Vittling from HVA Incorporated, doing business as Supreme Pizza and Subs, to Gourmet Brick House, doing business as Supreme Pizza and Subs, located at 2706 South County Trail. Good evening.
Good evening. I do. Sydney Prokos from Viera and DJ and Filippo.
Welcome. We'll also ask the clerk to give us an update on this application.
Okay, thank you. So again, not much is changing here, still remaining as a full-service restaurant and pub. There is no live entertainment currently, and there's no application for any new live entertainment. The hours are slightly changing. Currently, they are from 11 a.m. to 9 p.m., except for Sunday, they close at noon, and they want to change it to 11 a.m. to 1 a.m., 7 days a week. That's normal, standard business hours. The seating remains the same. You've got 48 seats, all are inside. Parking remains the same. This is the location where they have a few spots outside, and then they lease from the neighbor a couple of doors down. So that's all been approved by the zoning official. As far as approvals, we need to get the fire marshal to sign off on this. And again, the Department of Health will need to issue the food business license, and the Secretary of State will need to issue the retail sales tax permit. Insurance is in place, and it has been cleared by the Division of Taxation for transfer.
You're not planning any entertainment, am I correct?
Nope.
And that's a big difference in time from where it was previously. That's why
I'm happy to speak to that. So the plan is to get the approval until 1 a.m., but Mr. Kishan Patel, the sole owner who is here with me tonight, isn't planning, at least initially, to open until 1 in the morning. It's really in case he wants to in the future, if there's business, if it goes well, if employees are willing to stay that late, it would already be approved for that time. So right now, when he takes it over, it's not going to change. But we're hoping that it'll be approved until 1 in the morning in future.
But the business operation will remain essentially the same a
Absolutely.
pizza restaurant.
Yep. And I have some background.
Sure.
So, again, Mr. Kishan Patel, who's the sole owner, is buying Supreme Pizza. That's what this transfer is for. He's very familiar with the food service industry. He owns several Subways throughout Rhode Island and owns a liquor store, in Massachusetts. So he's been alcohol tip certified for quite some time. He understands the importance of taking liquor sales pretty seriously, and he's had no issues at the state or local levels at any of his other stores or the liquor store. We're here, as Ms. Carney said tonight, requesting the approvals related to the purchase of that business, Supreme Pizza. And notably, like we've been discussing, these are internal changes, keeping all employees who want to stay on, same pizza shop operation, same store name, no alterations to the premises, really just the hours in case the business lends itself to a later than 9 p.m. But that's not happening on day one. And so his financing is in order. We're on track to close shortly after your approval, and we're here to answer any other questions.
Other questions from the council?
Dave, how prepared you were.
Thank you.
Are there any questions from members of the public related to this application, either in person or on the Zoom platform? If there are no further questions from the council, and the public has had its opportunity to weigh in, then I'll make a motion to approve the application for transfer of a Class BV alcoholic beverage license with Biddling from HVA Incorporated, doing business as Supreme Pizza and Subs, to Gourmet Brick House Incorporated, doing business as Supreme Pizza and Subs, located at 2706 South County Trail, for a period of 30 days, subject to full compliance as determined by the town clerk.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor? Aye.
Luck.
Motion carries 3-0. Good luck. This brings us to item 6C. This is an application for a new Class BV limited alcoholic beverage license with Biddling for 431 Main Street, doing business as EG Smash, located at 431 Main Street. What I'd like to do is entertain a motion to continue the public hearing to March 23rd to provide adequate advertised notice of the hearing for this application.
So moved.
Do I have to ask for any comments from the members of the public?
And
Not if we're continuing it. Okay. So I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0. This brings us to item 7, unfinished business. We have 2 items on our unfinished business. The first is a review and possible action on the renewal of a Class BV alcoholic beverage license with Biddling and Entertainment for Low Key Cafe on Main Street. And we have Zach Flanders, the license holder for Low Key Cafe, appeared before this board on November 24th, 2025. And Mr. Flanders explained that his business experienced a significant leak from the roof in February of 2025, which forced a closure, and that repairs were pending approval of the insurance claims by Mr. Flanders and by his landlord. At that time, the town council voted to approve the license renewal on a granted but not issued basis until March 9th, 2026. So at tonight's meeting, we'll have an opportunity for the applicant to give us an update on the status of the business. Before going into that, I just want to ask the clerk, the current license, Lee, can you tell us the status of the current license?
sure. Yes, so based on the situation that we are in, I would still need to ask the building inspector to get in there at some point. The zoning official also needs to sign off. He was looking for some clarifications about the valet service contract. The finance department is looking for a small payment because of a delinquency for the first quarter payment. Fire marshal would also need to get in there. And then for myself, I would just like to see confirmation of all the tip servers and the supervisors, as well as the food business license does expire in April. That's a standard date for the entire state. So might want to reapply if that is so the case. And also a new certificate of insurance we would need.
Thank you. Good evening to Mr. Flanders. Hello, sir.
Good evening. I'm Mark Reynolds. I'm the attorney representing Low Key with respect to the insurance issue fact that it would be helpful for me to come tonight to update the council on the status of that, since that's the impediment to him reopening. So just to give you some background, as you know, there was a water damage in the premises last year. Mr. Flanders submitted the claim to his insurance company. In late May, he received a denial of that claim, saying it wasn't covered because they felt that the leak was due to wear and tear on the roof. Mr. Flanders did submit a copy of the denial letter to the clerk. The council should have it, just so you can see where we are. At that point, sometime after that, I was retained to pursue the claim. We met, I collected information, and we had to retain an expert to review the weather records, documentation, inspect the roof, interview Mr. Flanders, and come up with a report. We retained Building Enclosure Systems out of Providence. And just last week, they submitted their final report to us with their opinion that it was the weather conditions, weight of snow and ice on the roof. Ironically, we're dealing with that now, but that was the situation then, that caused the perforation in the roof, which caused the leak. So with that, we will have to request that the insurer reconsider their position based upon our experts' review of the materials. Obviously, they can say yes or they can say no. If they say no, then we may need to take next steps and institute litigation.
How much money are we talking about?
So it would be the contents, which based upon what Mr. Flanders has indicated is probably in the six-figure range, between his inventory that was damaged and couldn't be used and the other personal property fixtures that were in the property. And he's also got a loss of business income claim as well because he hasn't been able to open. So it's a significant claim. The other issue that he's facing is the landlord is in a similar position. They submitted an insurance claim to try to get the roof fixed, and it was denied. Likewise, although they tore out the damaged portions of the property, the water damaged interior portions, they have not done anything to repair those areas yet, saying, well, we need insurance money to do it. We've been working with them to try to get that accomplished. We may need to bring that issue to a head soon if we don't make progress there. So it's really kind of a two-front effort here. One, with respect to Mr. Flanders' insurer to convince them that the claim should be paid, and if not, if we can't convince them, force them in a court proceeding to do so, and also work on getting the premises in a condition where he can reoccupy it. Right now, he can't reoccupy it because, the walls are bare from from the floor up 3 feet because they tore it all out because of the water damage.
We're a year plus into this already.
We are. The things take time. It took time to locate an expert. We vetted a couple of different experts. It takes time for them to do their work, to do their report. I understand the frustration, but that's been the pace of things.
How long do you think the town should wait?
Well, I mean, I think it's certainly reasonable to continue to have these status updates. I intend to submit my communication to the insurer within the next week. Now that we have the report from BES, I'm gonna be writing to them next week. How quickly they respond, I have no control over. So we're somewhat at their mercy as well. I mean, I can continue to push, and we won't wait forever. So that's an unknown as well, as far as the insurer and how quickly they respond to my communication.
Am I correct in assuming that if you don't get the insurance money, you're not going to be able to open?
No, you're incorrect.
So I understand that the landlord is also having issues with they're not able to fix the roof. They're not able to collect on the insurance money, correct?
Right, they have a different policy. They have repaired the roof. They've done temporary emergency repairs, but a more permanent repair is needed. The roof may need to be replaced. How much of that is covered? That's, that's their situation with their insurer. But yes, their claim, not involved in that, but from talking to their counsel, their claim was denied as well, contending basically the same things. Well, this is just wear and tear. It's an old roof. They start to leak at some point. Doesn't have anything to do with the weather. And that's why we had to get someone to go out and make that analysis from the weather records and inspecting the area where the puncture happened and where the damage is underneath, and refuting the opinion that the insurance company came up with as far as where the water came in.
So the repair that the owner did is not a permanent repair, it's just temporary. You still can't fix the premises, is that, while the temporary repair is there, you can't fix
Well-
anything, or?
Well, the things that need to be fixed are mainly the landlord's, the interior walls of the space
Oh, the wall-
need to be fixed.
It's
Mr. Flanders would have to obviously purchase inventory, and he had his own, lighting and things like that, which would damage, which would have to be put back up. But the main structural issues or the walls is the landlord's.
So it's significant damage.
Yes.
So
Yeah, this
it's
was-
not just a little tiny
right,
thing.
This
So-
was not put a bucket on the floor and catch it and hope it.
So can I ask our solicitor, I mean, in this situation, this does not seem to be an easy, there's no easy resolve here, and I guess I'm curious as to how long. I mean, even if they manage to settle in a year, they still have another year of
Well,
construction.
the State Department of Business Regulations, if they don't have it by November, you can't have it for more than a year. So if they don't have it by the end of November, it's gone anyway. You can't continue it beyond this license year because it's been a whole year now, so forth, that since last November that it's been granted and not issued. So that's,
So, yeah, he can't
that's
hold
their
it
kind of
indefinitely.
drop dead deadline.
Yeah.
My suggestion perhaps might be a 90-day review of this, which will give the attorney a chance to try to put some fire under the insurance company, because they're basically going to have the loss of a liquor license as part of the claim as well if they don't do it. I don't know about the time. This was May 27th, almost a year ago that they got the
Yeah.
denial. And yes, I would, that seems like an awful long time now. And so I would suggest a relatively short deadline to keep everybody moving. Because basically you don't have any obligation to renew this. It's incomplete. It otherwise expires tonight. If you take no action, it will expire tonight. Or whatever further time if you want to do it 30, 60, or 90 days out and to do it. And no matter what, you won't be able to renew it in November without it being all ready to be issued.
I'm more inclined to like the 60 days, because I think in 60 days you would have an idea of where you are. Would you agree to, I mean, would you agree in 60 days you should have an idea of where your study, what the study shows, what the,
At a minimum, we'll be in a better position to know what the landlord's position is going to be. Are they going to be difficult with getting these repair done or not?
Yeah.
And we'll, we may have a response. I would hope to have a response from the insurer as well. I would typically diary it on my end for, 3 weeks after I send them the letter. I would follow up and say, hey, I sent you a letter 3 weeks ago. What's the status?
Yeah.
And so I think 60 days for another review is reasonable. We'll definitely be in a better position to give you an update on both fronts as to where things stand.
Yeah,
Anders, you understand that by November, if this isn't resolved, we cannot renew your license. At that point, you're just going to have to, you understand that from what Dr.
That indeed, you cannot renew it if it was,
That is my advice. Obviously, you have your own lawyer and can find it, but the DBR regulations do not allow a license to be what they refer to as parked. You can't hold and reserve a license, which is effectively what you're doing for more than a year's time. So at that point, I would advise the council that they're unable even to act on it. Now it's their discretion. They don't have to do it, but they can. but as of after November, they won't be able to.
And,
And I will point out one thing, there is not a cap, although we have a cap on the number of licenses in the town has indicated, in the past has increased that number of cap. It might well decrease if this expires and do it, but it's not like there's a big value to this license. It's not like it's in Boston or in Newport where there's a substantial value to the license. There always is a possibility you can come back and go through all the procedures and reapply. But
you're, correct me, Zach, if I'm wrong. You're also saying that unless the landlord fixes the roof, you still can't, you're not going to pay, you're not going to fix what you need to fix.
Because it's his structure, he has to fix the roof. He's put out, we've contacted his attorney, and so we're waiting to hear what his status is. I think we may give them our BES condition assessment report for them to use as well with their insurance. Because I can't change his roof.
We've been trying to work with them. If he's not going to fix the roof, then he's going to have to make a hard decision. Do I run the risk that I reopen and we get another leak? And again, he'd have recourse against the landlord again, trying not to have to go through that again. And that's what it's been up to now. But time is of the essence. So yes, he's going to have to make a hard decision. If the landlord continues, clearly he's got to fix the interior. Whether he agrees to fix the roof or what he does with that, we'll have to deal with that. But Mr. Flanders is not saying that unless the roof is fixed, I can't open. He may have to make a hard decision to say, I'm going to have to take the chance and hope it doesn't rain in again.
I was going to say, this is
And
an
if it
issue
does,
between your client and his landlord. Unfortunately, that's the way this is. So
right.
with all due respect, I think, 60 days, I'd like to hope that we have a better response or answer at that point, or know where we're coming from.
In fairness, if this were my business, I don't know, I'd be on the phone every day. Maybe you were, I don't know, but it's taken a really ridiculously long time. And I would, I'm not that nice. I would be pretty nasty at some point and get it done. This is ridiculous. But I'm inclined to give you the 60, although I don't know why really, but just because I'll be nice now. But it's really ridiculous. I don't know when you retained your attorney, but as soon as you saw a problem, snap into,
I agree. I haven't been sitting on my hands. It's been a battle and things have just been taking time. First time dealing with an issue like this with insurance companies, and it's taking a lot longer than I thought. But I think we're at a point where we've kind of been going up the hill, and now I think 60 days seems appropriate. And I think that we'll come back and have movement.
yeah, and I would be a pain. I mean, you call on Monday, I expect to hear from you by Wednesday. I don't hear from you Wednesday, I call Thursday. I mean, squeaky wheel.
I appreciate the time that you've put into this, and I appreciate 60 days. I think 60 days, hopefully we'll have a better answer. I do think you're going to have to make some hard decisions. This can't go on forever. So.
Mr. Flanders, did you state that your intention is to reopen even if your insurance does not come through?
Yes, there need to be fixes, but yeah, I would do everything I could to
And you continue to pursue the insurance, but if you
that in concert.
right. So it sounds like the landlord's lack of repair is really what's holding things up from you making any additional investment.
No, the landlord's repair is definitely holding things up because the interior structural walls are damaged.
Mhm. So what are your options, I guess, Mr. Reynolds, what are your options as far as your dealings with the landlord? Is low-key paying rent now to the landlord?
so it has been abated for a period of time. And that was part of it too, is trying to maintain a working relationship with the wants to stay in the space. But, again, we've reached the tipping point, and, he would have recourse under the lease. He's got the landlord has an obligation to have a premises that he can utilize. We may have to go there.
Mhm.
That's the next step, so.
You can see that puts you in a difficult position. You do want to maintain that relationship with the landlord. But I think, Zach, you have retained an attorney. You are making a legal representation to the insurance company. You've hired a consultant. So I'm in favor of giving you some extension. I just don't know at what point the town becomes uncomfortable having a license holder who is not operating for over a year. So I just, I don't know what that date is, but it puts me in a little bit of an uncomfortable position. So I think we would like an update and see if we can make some progress.
Right, I want you to know, I'm actively pursuing this. I'm not. Time for an update. Hopefully we'll have significant.
Other questions from the council?
I have no more.
I'd ask the solicitor and our clerk if you could help me craft a motion. We do need to, I guess, extend the granted but not issued status to a date certain.
Yes. Rather than 60 days, we should probably pick it as a meeting date. May 11th? That look like approximately 60 days out, and that's a meeting.
Yes. Yep.
So that you're granting license until May 11th, 2026.
That's a granted but not issued basis. Do we have to put in the provision about pending approval by the clerk or?
No,
No.
I think, because I think this is something the council will want to see. I would say that if you know sooner and want to come back in sooner,
Mhm.
contact the clerk and you'll be put on an agenda before then. You don't have to wait till the last minute to come in here. But otherwise, I think it should come before the council to make that decision. Not a ministerial question, unless you want to say now that, unless everything is done by that date, it expires. It's up to you.
Construction done and.
Right. Okay. Well, I think there seems to be a consensus of the council that we want to get an update in 60 days. So then we can have conversation on where you are and decide how much additional time you need, or we feel that you've had your opportunity and we won't take any action on extending the license. So I'd ask for a motion to grant but not issue alcoholic beverage license, Class BB alcoholic beverage license with vittling and entertainment for Low Key on Main Street for the period of tonight, March 9th, until May 11th, 2026.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll see you in May. This brings us to item 7B. This is the proposed capital improvement program for fiscal period 2026, 2027 through 2031, 2032. So we did start this discussion at our special meeting at 6 o'clock. We did adjourn that meeting at 7 so we could do our public hearing. And now we're returning to the proposed capital improvement program. So Mr. Nada, if you'd like to continue your presentation
Sure,
from the
great.
slideshow.
Yeah, as an extension of the capital program, we're going to now start off with our Community Services Department, then to be followed as the presentation is outlined by the DPW Department, Police, Fire and EMS, IT, and Planning. So Andy Wade to come up and walk us through the PAYGO proposal, as well as note any other major improvements in the 6-year plan.
Good evening, everyone. Pleasure to be before you yet again. This year, as part of our 6-year capital improvement plan submission, we have a number of items in year one that kind of a combination of both preventive maintenance items as well as some equipment acquisitions and replacements for our Parks Department. First off is our water heater at the Swift Community Center. The Swift Community Center is our flagship facility that offers programs to all ages through recreation and through our senior services division. The water heater itself is reaching its end of life, and I'm sure, as any of you know in your own homes, you want to replace that before it's too late, because it's much worse to clean up the mess after a failed water heater than it is changing it out in due course. I'm happy to go more into that if anyone has any questions about it. If not, we can move on. Our infield groomer is reaching the end of life. If people are not aware, infield groomer to take care of the 14 baseball and softball fields across town is a specialized piece of equipment that helps regrade and level out the soils of the infields, making it safe and play consistent to those that play upon the surface. It's most heavily used in the spring season to accommodate prepping of the fields for the interscholastic league sports at our high school and our middle school sports as well at Cole. Significant expense of around $40,000 for one of those. Any questions there? And something probably maybe a more interesting thing in the world of parks maintenance, we've put on there the turf tank painting system. So a lot of things that happen in the parks maintenance are now trying to be automated over time, or use artificial intelligence to help achieve the tasks. This is one of those items where laying a lacrosse field, for example, it can be intricate. It's a large field. There's a lot of dimensions to calculate as you lay it down, a lot of lines, a lot of manpower. It can take 3 to 4 hours to mark it out, lay it out, and properly paint the field and make it ready for play. This machine could do that within a half hour, and it's done with GIS coordinates, knows exactly where it is on the field once it's set up for the first time. Future paintings can happen with the push of a button. So now it frees up a task for what would be 3 to 4 men or people that work on the parks crew to lay out and conduct a task to an individual with the machine to set it in place and go. So it allows and frees our staff up to do other important missions along the way.
Does it use like a GPS system to
It does.
locate its position?
Yes, it'll communicate to figure out where it is on the planet and knows the dimensions based upon programs that are entered into the turf tank. Therefore, it can set it and forget it like you would in your kitchen. It's, several communities in the state have started to move in that direction. We've attended some demos both from representatives that sell this machine, as well as visiting a parks crew in South Kingstown that is using it as part of their weekly routines to kind of get the real deal opinions of the guy with boots on the ground on how it operates and whether it's a worthy investment. And signs point to yes.
Andy, would it ever make sense for us to join, let's say, with like North Kingstown and get one and then share it?
An interesting proposal. I guess it depends on how you would coordinate that agreement, you know, because they're at the times and period of use at the same times. And so there's a significant level of coordination. And for the amount of acreage that we need to line and stripe for fields in the fall and in the spring, I think that there could be some issues or it would be problematic in the scheduling of that. I think in terms of like maintenance contracts for it as well, supply of the paint, it's not an impossibility. I think that if we're making an investment in this, that best to control your own destiny. We've been engaging in the past several years, first sparked through some grant funding that I was able to acquire with the redevelopment of academy basketball and pickleball courts. Next was the Eldridge Park renovation. We were able to get a significant funding through the Main Street improvement project to start improving our inventory of trash receptacles. You know, it's a small thing to maybe the public eye, but it's also one of those things that you don't notice as a detriment. It's more of like it's a hidden thing that makes everything look cleaner and more intentional. And so previously, all of our parks had been furnished with wire mesh see-through trash receptacle that today they're unsightly. I think their intention in the past was well-founded in the fact that because they're all a mesh sidings to them, they didn't retain water or any liquids that were thrown away in them, so that they were light and easy for one, visually to see from distance if they were full, which also my argument is that we don't want that in our parks. But two, I think it was probably light and easy for the crew to maintain. But moving towards a more decorative finish is more appropriate, I think, in our public park space. I don't think the public needs to be inundated with the visibility of trash. Also, the trash cans that I'm looking to replace these with will be critter resistance. So we're not worried about what goes in the trash to be taken out by seagulls or raccoons or squirrels. Critter is hungry that day and finds a leftover sandwich that it wants to get through 3 layers of trash to take and consume. So I think that I'm asking for additional funding to further our trash receptacle replacement program, to work through our parks to not only improve it visually, but the systems that they have today can still achieve some of the solutions as lighter painters inside a heavier outer layer that can be permanent. Depending on the volume of trash that's needed at a particular park, I could consider to install another solar-powered compacting trash can. But truth be told, at a lot of our parks, it doesn't receive the volume that it would need that, especially those west of Route 2. Two other projects requested funding for are continued improvements at our Eldridge Park facility. You know, we invested heavily in the Eldridge Park and it has come out very well. I would say that we're not completely done with what could be accomplished to finish off beautifying that space. One of which is now that we have a home for girls softball at the Little League level at Eldridge Field, the concession stand building and restrooms and scorer's booth is still original to, I believe, when that was constructed in the late 80s. And it would be really important to upgrade those restroom facilities to the new public that would be coming out to watch the girls play, to support Donnie Bowen's basketball league, to support men's softball. And so what I would like to be able to do is bring in an architect to be able to do a redesign of the interior of this building, and then to be able to go out and plan for upgrades, see if there's a way to split what we could do in-house as opposed to out of the house. But that's the goal with that. And then finally is the request for some funding that will hopefully, paired with grant funding that we have currently applied for with DEM to support the beautification of the memorial, James H. Eldridge Memorial Fountain Corner. You know, because I really look at that space as being what could be like an anchor visually to our major downtown park facility. It's underutilized today. If we're able to bring that fountain back to life and make it someplace that the public is invited to congregate and enter the park, I think it can be a real nice complement to what was already an active, robust park in our downtown district. One out? Oh, yes. Last but not least, final request is a modest request for in 2022, I believe. Yes, 2022, we redeveloped the playground at Sun Valley, removed 30-year-old equipment, replaced it with state-of-the-art landscape structures, playground equipment, and we also repaved, removed and repaved and enlarged what was a small basketball court. So now we have just around a little less than a half court space there that didn't have funding in the original project to color code and put lines on it.
Is this at the mobile home park?
No, I understand. I don't know the history as to why this playground is called Sun Valley. It's at the bottom of Pequot Trail.
Oh, okay, I know what it is.
Right down from Shefferoni.
Yeah.
But not get this moniker from the park you're referring to.
Can I just ask a question about the the Eldridge one? Just really quickly, I mean, is this a new this is a new restroom and concession already, wasn't it? Newer, the concession at Eldridge, or was that old?
I believe it was part of a Department of Transportation funding source.
Oh, so it's old.
Back some
Okay.
time. And so the restrooms are still operational today, but they are furnished with outdated sinks and toilets and missions, as well as the floor could use a replacement, paint, possibly some ceiling tiles, just to kind of freshen it up to make it maybe more of a destination point so that we can host regional events for when youth girls softball enter certain tournaments.
Okay, thanks. Those aren't open all the time, are they?
They are not.
Okay.
They're open when permitted use is on the field. But you know, part of what we would look at doing with that as well, and we can consider, is the installation of new electronic timed locks so that we could have them open more regularly without having to have a personnel on site.
Okay.
That is it for year one. Happy to answer any additional questions.
Thank you, Andy.
Great, thanks, Andy. Next we have up is DPW Department, which has multiple divisions, and I'd like to invite Director Fred Gomes. Fred.
Thank you, everyone. So this upcoming year, we have a few requests. We'll start with the equipment. So we're looking to replace one of our older large dump trucks. It's a 2009. We haven't bought a new dump truck in about 5 years, I would guess. And as you could tell from this last storm, we do need everything that we have. Unfortunately, these vehicles do have a lifespan, the way that we use them. during storms, plowing, and especially with the salt, they do take a beating, and unfortunately, the underneath starts to rot out, and to a point that they are no longer safe. Unfortunately, we have a very talented, sorry, fortunately, we have a very talented crew of employees and mechanics that think outside the box, and with their ability, we're able to get more than the expected lifespan out of these things. We just weld them together, but you get to a certain point that there's just nothing left to piece together on these things. So we're looking for a new dump truck. The estimated cost on that is about $250,000, unfortunately, but it does come equipped with a new snowplow and a new sander. Past years, we would just buy the truck, and then we would take the old plow off, move it on to the next one. Same thing with a sander. Great idea. We saved a lot of money, but the plow company that we were using for years went out of business, can no longer get parts. The sander company that we used for years went out of business. Now we're making our own parts. So you'll see a request further on down the road. Actually, you can just go there right now. So our third item on the list is 11-foot snow plows. We've been replacing these as we go along, but we're down to 2 left of the original root plows that the town used to use. Unfortunately, we cannot get any parts for these things anymore. During storms, something always breaks. We always break pistons, we always break hydraulic lines, we actually break frames. We just can't get these anymore. So we're at the point now that one of these plows go out, the truck is down because I don't have any spare plows. So that is our second request for equipment tonight. And then the third request was going to be to replace our wheel loader. That was purchased in 2008. Same thing. That is a everyday vehicle. We use that loader for everything. Not only loading salt, loading sand during a storm. During a regular spring, summer day, we'll use it to, load sand, load whatever equipment whatever materials we need to get out for road projects. We actually use that loader to remove the sanders out of the back of the trucks on and off. That piece of equipment does get used every day. Unfortunately, same thing. The environment that it works in for half the year is in this salt pile. So the cab itself is rotting away to basically nothing. We did replace the engine on it a couple of years ago under an emergency because it failed, and we just didn't have the funds to buy a new loader at the time. So we did replace the engine on that. We're able to get another 2 years out of it. We'll probably get another 3rd year out of it, but it's at a point that you just can't keep band-aiding these things back together again. Any questions on those 3 pieces of equipment? I'm sorry. Yeah, I mean, if anything, this last storm kind of really proved that we do need everything that we have. We did throw every piece of equipment that we had at this last storm, honestly. I mean, everything. If it was running, it was out. So, and then we did do some emergency repairs during the storm as well. So I think that's it on the equipment side. We can talk about roads for a little bit. So we are continuing a road improvement project. My main goal this year is to jump on Cars Pond Road as the first road that we tackle. That road needs a total reconstruction, meaning that full depth reclamation. There is nothing on that road that we're going to save. So we're estimating that road to be about $500,000 to go from one end to the other.
I'd say, I mean, I have heard so many complaints about, and I always tell people, I'm like, they literally just paved the road with the rocks in the middle of the road. I'm like, I don't know what you want.
Yeah, well, we're not going to pave over the rocks. We can't remove the rocks from the side of the road because, believe it or not, we have done some testing out there, and some of those rocks just do not move.
Yeah.
So unless we're ready to invest some major money in blasting, we're not going to move those roads.
My son broke his car out there, so
Did he?
I'm well aware.
So that road is going to stay a rural road. It's going to have its bends, its up and downs. We can do a little bit of work, to remove some of the hazards, but you can't make that a straight 24-foot road. No. And you wouldn't want that out there anyway. It's in the rural part of town. So that's going to be our first roadway project. After that, we're going to get back into the neighborhoods.
Fred, are you going to do the whole length of Cars Pond from West
Yes.
Warwick to Frenchtown Road?
Yes, all the way to Frenchtown Road. Yep.
Granite. What's granite?
West Greenwich, yeah, West Greenwich. I know what he meant. Then after that, we're going to get back into our milling overlay program, get into some neighborhoods, do some of the, roads that are on our list. We've also, last year, we did our first sealing program where we went into a neighborhood and did all crack sealing throughout the neighborhood. We did that in the Pinewood neighborhood on the side of Route 4. We did the whole neighborhood in there. The year before that, we did Tillinghast Road. We did a chip seal on that. So we started to introduce different different treatments. So we're trying to get a lot more miles for the dollar versus just waiting until there is nothing left to fix, like Cars Pond. And then it's a total rebuild, or we're milling down 3 inches, replacing 3 inches. So we are starting to try to get a little bit smarter, I think, as we go along and try to make the dollar stretch out. But it does take a strategic plan and a long-term plan, which right now we have gotten a consultant on board a couple of years ago, and we're working at a 6-year plan. Just like the financial plan, we have a 6-year road plan. We're also continuing with our sidewalk program. We did quite a bit of sidewalks last year. If you notice, mostly around the Hill and Harbor area. We did spend a lot of money on sidewalks last year, but it needed it, and there's still plenty more that need to be repaired, replaced, or even added. We're also looking to do some stormwater work. So we have a culvert on Franklin Drive that every time we get these 100-year storms, which are now, once a year, twice a year, the capacity of that culvert just can't handle the amount of water that comes out of the neighborhoods, and it tops over the road. We always lose the edges of the road. We have to go back and replace them. So what we'd like to do is get a consultant on board to see exactly what we need to do to that culvert, so it handles more volume of water, so we're not out there constantly chasing. And then last on my capital wish list is you've heard Andy speak about the fuel tanks that were removed from the wastewater treatment facility. Those were done last week. So that was a major project that we've been trying to handle to get those away from the waterfront. We did install a new facility up at the highway garage, which has been operational for about a month, a little bit over a month. It's been working out great. Unfortunately, that project came in a little bit higher than we had anticipated. Our initial idea was to put that bigger tank up there and then put a smaller tank at PD for sole use of the police station and the ambulances in downtown. Unfortunately, the funds didn't allow us to do that. So what we're doing now is, I think I need about $375,000 for that. So I believe Trish is going to be funding half this year and then half the following year to get that project done. But those are my major asks on the public works side. We could talk about wastewater for a little bit if you'd like.
Right, just on roads, while you
Sorry.
mentioned a few things on roads, I got some correspondence from a constituent who was very excited about crack sealing technology. Are we using that? Is that something you think is?
Yes, we did it this year for the first time. So part of what we did a couple of years ago was we went out and we hired an engineering company that physically drove every lane mile in town. And then they gave us a road evaluation, right? So based on the road evaluation, you kind of determine the kind of treatment that you need, right? So Cars Pond Road, total rebuild. You can't throw enough crack sealing on that thing to hold it together. But the neighborhood on the side of Route 4, the whole neighborhood, it was sewered about 15 years ago. So after it was sewered, the whole road, the whole neighborhood was paved. So we're at the point that we were starting to see a lot of surface cracking. So that was a perfect candidate for that treatment. We spent $30,000 and we treated the whole neighborhood. So now what that does is keeps the water from going in between the cracks. And then, especially this time of year when the road is frozen and it starts to thaw, that's when you see the heaving, that's when you get the potholes. By sealing it, the water doesn't get in, you get another 10 years out of those roads. So yes, we have implemented that. We plan on doing that every year going forward. So this particular year, we'll be doing the full depth reclamation for Cars Pond Road. We'll get into a neighborhood where we'll mill and fill, typically 1.5 to 2 inches. We'll pick another road to do rubber chip seal, and then we'll pick another neighborhood to do the crack seal. So instead of spending all our money on asphalt, we do different treatments. Instead of me doing 2 miles worth of road, now we're doing 5, 6 miles worth of roads for the same amount of money.
Good, thank you.
Any other questions on anything else? Okay, so on the wastewater side, hopefully I will be coming before you next council meeting with a bond number that will look into do the phase 3 of the wastewater upgrade. Right now, we're going back and forth with our consultants. We had a list from about 4 years ago that unfortunately we didn't push forward and get a lot of that work done. So those numbers are obsolete. We're going through getting some new numbers. I should have that for you for the next council meeting. On top of the list is the UV system, as everybody knows. Again, I keep using the word obsolete, but it's obsolete. We're buying up all the pieces that we can on eBay, all over the state, all over whatever we can get. The only thing we can get for that system is the bulbs and the ballasts. Everything else is, you're at the mercy of eBay or whoever has anything. So that is in the design stages right now. We're estimating that project to be in the 1.9 to 2.1 range, just for the UV system. The other big project, as you know, as you've heard me talk about this before, is the I&I project that's coming down the road that we need to implement on Main Street before construction begins. Just a little bit of an example of how much II we have. So that's the infiltration of the water into cracks of pipes. We've been averaging about 0.8 million gallons per flow for the month of December, January. Since we had this melt, we're up to 1.2. So that just goes to show how much the snow is melting. It's getting into the ground. It's getting into the pipes. That shows what kind of jump we've had just in the last couple of weeks. So again, another major rehab, and then like everything else, especially in that industry, everything has a shelf life. The D9 building, I think, went online in 2008. It's all computer driven. A lot of the PLCs in there, again, obsolete. Whenever we can find something, it's an eBay purchase. Try to keep that thing running. So that'll all be in this last package that we'll come to you with, hopefully within for the next council meeting, along with some building envelope stuff that we've eliminated and value engineered. But now we have, our lab, the roof leaks, the windows don't open, doors don't close. So it's kind of time to, to take on some of these projects. But so that's a grand eye in the sky kind of wish list, but
I think wastewater is pretty important, actually.
yeah, wastewater is pretty important.
Considering our whole.
But our equipment, I feel, is just as important because we do need to have equipment that when you actually get in, it actually starts and runs, and you can count on. Just can't keep welding it back together. So
Fred didn't mention that on the denitrification disinfection. Disinfection system replacement, the UV system, that actually Fred, working with a new engineering consultant, that was just brought in over this past year. We just submitted a $2 million federal appropriation request with Congressman Magaziner. That just got submitted last week. I
Great.
think we're going to probably follow up with Senator Whitehouse and Senator Reed's office. But for that specific project at the $2 million price tag, that application just went in. It's clearly a long shot for us to be successful, but at least it's in. So we'll
Yeah.
see. Maybe we'll be fortunate.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Gomes? Let the record reflect that we have a tan
Very good.
Counselor Zarella here joining us.
In shorts, just off the plane.
Hey, thank you.
That's
Thank
how
you, Fred.
dedicated he is. He just got off the plane.
I didn't just get off. I've been doing a few things.
Thanks, Fred. Yeah, those two departments, Community Service and Public Works, really drive the scope of our capital program. I think you'll find with Chief Brown and others that their lists are more focused on some buildings, some fleet replacement, and but much more of a limited request than you'll find in DPW and Community Services. Chief?
Thank you, Andy. Council, thank you for
Evening.
having me tonight. I'm back before you again, new year, same requests. Looking for more vehicles. As you know, we don't wholesale replace our fleet. We replace it yearly. Get rid of the worst cars either by year or by mechanical ability. We move those out and bring them in.
Bless you.
As part of that vehicle replacement program that we have this year, we are looking to purchase 3 vehicles. 2 of the marked patrol SUVs. I say this every year, but typically those are the ones that you see on a daily basis driving around town. And the other vehicle we're looking to replace is a unmarked unit. It's used in the administrative division and also the detective division. These vehicles are purchased through a contracted price with our membership with Greater Boston Police Council. The vehicles are delivered through the Colonial Municipal Group, and they're transferred to Island Technical Service where they're upfitted with all the electronics and the IT, all the lights and the IT equipment that go in it. As you can see on the slide, the cost of the vehicles, estimated cost this year for the marked SUVs is $87,000 each, and estimated cost for the unmarked unit is $50,000. On the marked cruisers, it's important to note that we're about at a 50-50 split right now between the actual cost of the vehicle to have that delivered, and then the electronics cost and the upfitting is also about 50% of the total cost. So it's quite remarkable. You know, basically when I came on, we were buying vehicles and basically just putting lights and a radio in, and that was only a few $1,000s in added cost. So you're looking at almost $45,000 in added cost to put these electronic systems in there. So I think that's quite remarkable. Again, with the older vehicles, we move out. They're usually by year. This year, I did put in here that we're looking to get rid of, still have the old Crown Victorias. I have a few 2011s left. We do a final assessment right at the end because sometimes we'll have vehicles that have serious mechanical issues. We currently have one that has a blown engine. There's a possibility we may get an engine for that and repair it. But that could jump the list and move out. Year-wise, it's a decent vehicle, but obviously it needs an engine. So we make those final assessments, but looking at the list, the Crown Vics have served their purpose and it's probably time for them to go. I think that's about it on that. Do you have any questions at this point? I think that's about it.
I just
pretty much
curious,
everything.
the IT in those cars, is that something that Tim takes care of or do?
Well, yeah, so we bear the cost, and between Tim and we use another person. His name's Danny Yee. He helps us installing most of the computers and stuff. And then, of course, Island Technical does a lot. A lot of this is lighting and stuff like that that they go through and put in. It's not just the radio, the computer systems, the radar systems. It's also all the fine-tuned lighting. Again, going back in time, a cruiser would have, front and rear lighting. You'd have emergency lighting that was visible from the front and the rear. As we progress forward, you really have 360 degrees of lighting now. So there's all kinds of LED lights that flash everywhere, and it just adds cost to the vehicle.
Well, if you ever want to park your old police cars, you're welcome to do that in my driveway.
Drop it off at your house.
You can leave them right there in the front. I'd be happy to have them.
They're really not worth anything. We do get, they have a standard trade-in fee as long as the vehicle still runs.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't give these things away for people to drive them, but it's usually about $1,500. It doesn't sound like much, but it gets us free of the vehicle without having to do anything. So that cost we can put back into the fund. You know what I mean? We can use that cost towards the vehicle.
I think these are critical, obviously. So thank you.
And when you look at, right now, when you look at our 6-year capital, you're going to see just the same vehicle replacement fund.
Okay.
And it's kind of an estimate. We look at the fleet and then try to measure outward and try to figure out like where we're going to be in a few years and those amount of vehicles that we'll need. I haven't anticipated any major capital improvements to the building, repairs or anything. We just did do that air handler that we had to do it in an emergency situation. It has a twin that's on the roof. We did a basic initial inspection. They said it's fine. They tuned it up, but that may be something that appears over the next 6 years. Since the first one already blew out and we had to replace that. That may be something that you see in the future.
I think this is perfect. I mean, I understand about the cars. They get a lot of use and
They do. They're just,
Yeah.
there's so much, drive your personal car, with the amount of bells and whistles that are going off constantly. I mean, it helps, but it hurts when you have to repair these vehicles and those things.
I think they struggled in 3 feet of snow
Yeah, well,
a little bit, along with every other vehicle that we have. Yeah.
I don't know many that could make it through.
well, my driveway's open. Let me know.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Chief, thank you.
Going to be moving on to the Fire Department, Chief Perry.
Good evening. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight regarding the Fire Department's capital improvement program. This year's request is going to focus on 3 areas. One is a frontline rescue. The second one is replacing the ladder truck. And the third is a new SUV for the deputy chief. I'll start with a new frontline rescue. The rescue is one of the busiest vehicles in our department, responds to medical emergencies, motor vehicle accidents throughout East Greenwich and neighboring communities. One of our current rescues is a 2017, and it has roughly 165,000 miles on it. The rescues transport pretty much every hospital in the state. They go as far a lot on a daily basis to Miriam Hospital, South County Hospital, Kent, Rhode Island. They roughly put on around 25 to 30,000 miles a year. Another important factor is the delivery time. Before, back in the day, prior to COVID, you could purchase a new rescue, you'd have it in 6 months. Now, roughly everybody's around 30 to 36 months. We purchased a new rescue 2 years ago, and it's estimated we're not going to get it till probably the end of this year or early next year. So it takes 3 years to get a rescue now. It's crazy. The next is the replacement of Ladder 1. Ladder 1 is a 2004 Spartan 75-foot ladder truck that's provided more than 2 decades of reliable service to our community. The ladder truck is a multi-year capital project for which funding has already been approved, and the ladder truck has been ordered. The anticipated completion delivery date is early 2028. They had given us roughly 42 to 48 months to build the truck. Finally is a SUV for the deputy chief. This vehicle functions as a mobile command unit during emergency incidents. It carries communication equipment and command resources that allow incident commanders to manage a complex emergency scene. When the deputy chief position was filled approximately 7 months ago, there was no dedicated vehicle because we haven't filled the deputy chief's position since 2016. So we had the old director of communications car. It's just a regular 2015 Explorer, and it doesn't have all the equipment in a mobile command unit that the deputy chief would need. So those are the 3 items we're looking at purchasing this year. And just to give you a little idea of a couple of things I put in the upcoming capital for the rest of the 6 years, one of the main issues we're going to fall into is replacing our cardiac health monitors. So we fell in this situation in 2016. We had purchased new heart monitors in 2003, and it just got kicked down the road. So in 2016, we had no choice but to replace all of them. So in 2016, we replaced all of them with LifePak 15s. They say roughly they last 6 to 8 years. So in April of 16, we purchased them. You do the math, correction, 2018, I'm sorry, 2018. So it's coming up on 8 years this April. So you do the math, we're gonna have to start replacing them. So once they start going, who knows if we're gonna find parts or anything to fix them. I applied for an EMS grant with the state of Rhode Island. Hopefully, if all goes well, we'll be able to get 4 new heart monitors from the state. We'll roughly find out in a couple months. If not, I plan on applying for an AFG grant, which will be coming out in the next 6 to 8 weeks. If all goes well, hopefully we'll be able to get some heart monitors. If not, I had put in $50,000. We found out today they actually went up to $57,000 a piece for a new LifePak 35. But to provide advanced life support, which all our rescues are, it's just that piece of equipment that you must have. So that's one thing that I put into the 6-year capital. Another thing, you know, the ladder truck takes a big portion of our capital up. It's a large purchase, $1.8 million. It's not a vehicle you replace every 4 or 5 years. We're not going to purchase another ladder truck for 20 years, but unfortunately, it's now. It's now with just purchasing an engine, it's now purchasing a ladder. So once we free up some of that capital, in a couple of years, I'd like to appropriate some money to start work on some of the building maintenance. We have a couple older stations. Station 1 was built in 1914. Station 2 is over 50 plus years old. So I'd like to start working on some money to start the improvements of the stations. But I'm happy to answer any questions the council may have.
The questions for the chief?
I just was curious, the lifespan of these vehicles is like 10 years maybe, is that it? Like, particularly of the rescues, they're like 10 years. I mean, they get a ton of use. You go by my house 400 times a day.
So
Yeah.
So the issue we fall into with the rescues is it depends how many years. So we ultimately try to purchase a new rescue every 5 years and then put that rescue unit as a reserve for another several years. So we like to try to get that 9 to 10 years. The problem that we fall into, electronics, the wear and tear on some of these vehicles, and they start to break down, then it's costing a lot more money to fix them than they're currently worth. Then it takes months to replace whatever you got to do to fix them. And back in the day, it was easy to borrow a truck from your neighboring communities, like we would let them borrow our trucks. Everybody uses their rescues. Warwick was so far behind on rescues, they literally had to purchase like 6 rescues over the last like 18 months. That's what ends up happening. So we try to avoid that to keep the rescues, like our newer rescue one's been out of service for like a month now. They're using the reserve rescue, which has the 165,000 miles on it.
But the chief's also going to be challenged in a couple of years from now at our new contract. So at the last year of our new contract, we agreed to add a third full-time rescue on for the day shift. So as we continue to replace those vehicles, hopefully that will lessen some of the other overtime and maybe some of the other mutual aid in terms of using rescues from other places, but we're going to have more of a need in our own community to be able to use the rescues that we have, having three shifts on, really, right? So you get the two stations, and you're going to now have another day shift vehicle on based on the number of calls that we're seeing happen. The other thing, when you look at the 6-year plan, the chief's right. So we zeroed out the buildings, but I think we all understand there's clearly significant investment that has to take place at Station 1 and Station 2. We just are trying our best, and I think the chief with his team is doing some internal work. Our finance crew, along with Rose and others, are working collaboratively to try to free up dollars to make improvements in living quarters and other things. And those projects don't always make their way into the capital program. They're being done kind of behind the scenes with staff labor, buying equipment, getting people to donate other fixtures in the stations. So there's a lot more that could, I think, be reflected here in the two stations that we'll have. And, we're just trying to balance the incredible cost of the equipment right now. And then the chief and his team is trying to balance smaller life-saving equipment through grant funding. So that's kind of where we are. So in spite of the fact that I continue to say it's a $2 million total capital pay-go program, we're going to lower that probably closer to $1 million. You can easily add and defend it, add another $1 million to the project and spend it in a bunch of the departments that are sitting behind me here today to be able to meet needs. So we're looking at that, but I would think the chief is right. In the next few years, you're going to have to see a line item that's reflective of some improvements in both stations.
Chief, where's that third rescue going to be located when it goes active?
So we're gonna man it out of Station 2 on Frenchtown, just because of the medical mile, the lifespan buildings. We'll end up probably running it out of the new apparatus bays. So we'll run 2 rescues Monday through Friday out of that station.
That'll just be the day shift?
Day shift, correct.
I'd like to be able to charge those medical buildings more money for the constant, use of,
We do get the rescue billing out of it.
I know, but we get more.
We're working on that. But EMS runs have increased along with the rescue billing, and with the lifespan buildings, a lot of the rescues go to Rhode Island, Merriam a lot of times during the daytime. The issue that we fall into, they'll transport to Merriam, they're gone for 2 hours. So that takes 2 firefighters out plus that rescue. Then the other rescue goes to the walk-in treatment center on South County Trail. They'll transport to South County. Then you have no rescue in town for an hour and a half. So then we rely heavily on mutual aid.
As I say, anecdotally, I see you guys go by. I know you're responding on 95 too. I don't understand why we can't charge, the state for stuff like that. I mean, we're responding to state calls. I see you on the highway responding. I mean, my house, I can see everything.
I know you can.
Third person in a row you talked about.
I know, telling you.
How does that exactly work? How do you get paid exactly? How does that work?
For the rescue
Yeah.
billing.
Yeah, how does that work?
So what we do is if we transport a resident to the hospital, they'll bill their medical. If they don't have medical, we do not hard bill any town resident. So if we transport a resident, if Blue Cross pays $400 for that transport, that's what goes into the general fund, that $400. So there's a whole breakdown of our EMS billing company for an ALS transport, an ALS2 transport, a BLS transport. If you oxygen, put a patient on a 12-lead EKG, anything like that, they bill accordingly. Whatever the health insurance pays is what we end up getting.
Thanks, Chief. Chief, I think during the snowstorm, that was your first anniversary
Yes.
as
yes.
the chief. So you made it through the year. Congratulations.
I think you have a few more gray hairs from that. So,
I'm sure you did.
hopefully it's the last one any of us have to deal with.
But I was looking at when you were appointed and when we did the swearing
Yeah.
in, and it was just about a year
Yeah.
ago. Yeah.
Yes, it was challenging, very challenging, but we got through it. Nobody got hurt, nobody got injured. Everybody did a great job.
Heartily agree. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Chief. Yep. Moving on to the Information Technology Department, Tim Wheeler. Tim?
Good afternoon. How are you?
Evening.
So I have a few requests for my capital. A few of those are going to be carrying over to start some of the process of some of the equipment I'm going to need. As you know, a few years ago, it seems just around the corner, but it actually has been a few years since we started putting in Wi-Fi and switches and some of the infrastructure. But unfortunately, with technology and some of the end-of-life series, they're only lasting anywhere from 5 to 7 years. So we're trying to get maximum out of those. My first request is for a vehicle. The vehicle that we have right now that we transport computers and do things with was supposed to be traded in. So it's an older model. And I didn't really, at the time, start a budget for vehicles in my department, but we do have the one vehicle. So that's the request for the 50,000 for the new vehicle. It's kind of a no frills, just enough to get me around town and to deliver any of the equipment that's necessary. Number two is the computer-wide replacement program, something that we've always keep doing. And we take a small portion of our computers. Most of our computers are pretty well priced. So we're able to do a lot of good things with not a lot of money. So we can replace a decent amount of computers just to keep everything new and fresh for some of the important people that need to get things done. Last thing is, well, actually two more things, Wi-Fi, switch and router replacement. That's a portion of what I'm going to be needing in the next 3 to 5 years. So I'm going to keep putting money away for that until we hit that. So we're not surprised with one very big, large bill, kind of how we were from when we had the American Rescue Plan money. So that worked out quite well for us, but we're just going to start planning better for this and putting money aside for this. The phone system upgrade. The existing phone system got here about 5 years ago, right before I started. That has probably another 2 to 3 years left. Then we're going to have most of the new phone systems are probably going to end up in the cloud. So I'm just starting to put money aside for that for the 2 to 3 years. So we're going to take a portion of money, save 2 or 3 years. So once again, we're not hit with a very large bill coming up in 3 or 4 years that we weren't expecting. So those are kind of my requests. Everything else is fairly in good shape. And we've obviously, with this last project of doing the 911 upgrade, we were able to get a lot of things done, which benefited everything. Do you have any questions for me?
No, but you don't talk about some of the really good work that you've done. So could you just take like a few minutes, because you told me about it when we were at the luncheon, but can you talk about what you and Colby sort of did at the police station? And just, I didn't say a half an hour, but just talk about that a little bit, because the public doesn't know about that. And that is really important and great stuff.
So some of the equipment that we actually had was like almost 20 years old. So first we started by replacing the radio systems themselves, going from an older VHS system to an 800 megahertz system, which was basically a night and day difference for communication for police and fire. I mean, there's just no comparison of them being able to communicate back. We're not missing any calls. All that thing is great. We put in, which we hope to have an open house shortly for the new dispatch center. We were able to get that accomplished, as well as the new roll call room, which is also turned into the EMA location. That came in crucial, actually, to have a place and location that people could go to for the last storm. That's what its intent was for. But actually being able to use it every day as a roll call room really maximizes the potential for money. So once again, lots of monitors, new computers for the officers. We're able to do a lot of other good things, little onesie twosie things here and there for some furniture and stuff that was necessary. Same thing with fire. Fire's room was, I mean, when we opened up fire one time, we found a 100-year-old water sprinkler above the dispatch center. It was still live with 185-degree water going through it. So we had to remove things that we found along the way. It's an old building, but it's going to look amazing. The floor is down. The computers are going to be going in this week. So all the equipment that we're doing now is really critical for the conversation of what the residents need to be able to communicate, get their word out. It generates everywhere. It does not touch anyone in this whole district. It's amazing the things that we were able to accomplish. We saved a ton of money and we're able to do a lot of things with like using some of our Amazon dollars. to save money and just do a lot of the work ourselves. We literally today took 3 huge garbage truck fulls of just cardboard from the things that we built today. So, so we did the work ourselves to save the money we needed to save, but it was necessary to get this thing done to make both fire and police and all around safety critical. We also were able to get Colby items necessary for safety so he can go out and maintain programs. We can set up command centers outside. So we've done a lot of things with, I know it was quite a few dollars, but it really was a huge savings to the town for what we were able to accomplish for the amount of money that we had. Welcome.
Tim, how do those, is it 800 milligram,
800 megahertz.
megahertz radios, how do they get around the problems that the other radios were having with?
Well, we
expansion?
were able to actually buy LTE, so if they do fail, they actually they fall over into a phone system. We've actually added much more. We're adding 4 new locations that far as receive and communicate for towers. We're looking at Route 2 tower, we're going to add on to it, as well as communicating everything through fiber. We're putting a new tower on the high school as well as wastewater. So we really have a great backup system. Also, out of all of this, we also did upgrade all the radios and everything in DPW. So that that's another whole department that we took care of. So we really maximized our potential of the things that we have. And the computers that came out of these locations, we're using in other locations. So it's kind of like we've taken the best of what we've given to the police department, and now that goes down to another department that maybe didn't need as much or high quality computers. So everything has got a second life for it too.
Put any new towers west of Route 2?
Well, the one on Route 2, having that we're changing over we have no issues right now. We're looking at potentials of changing over maybe our provider at some point, service provider, but right now we have a very good coverage. We have the dead spots we used to have. They're very far and few between at this point. We've communicated for quite a while now using these, and it's only going to get stronger and better.
That's great. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, Tim. We're going to, knowing that the presentation is in a particular order, we're going to just skip over briefly the property revaluation and town hall improvements. I'd like to ask Director of Planning, Al Rinaldi, to come up and talk about a few projects as well as the planning program reserve fund. Al?
Good evening. The planning department has 2 ongoing projects and 1 project that is looking for funding. The 2 ongoing projects is the parking study. We left off with a presentation by our consultants, and we're following up with a listening session and then researching all of the ordinances to see where the amendments need to be made and so on. The comprehensive plan is a big endeavor that has begun. Later on tonight, hopefully it will advance to a public hearing, but that is on its way, and that will set the course for the town for roughly 10 to 20 years. Out of all of these projects, the newest project is an impact fee project. The town has had impact fees going back to the early 2000s, and impact fees depend on accurate, justifiable numbers. We were with a consultant who was actively calculating and examining numbers that we gave them. Unfortunately, COVID hit, and that took up 15 months of progress with that project. The numbers are all old, and we need to basically start over with the impact fees. The impact fees and the numbers go hand in hand, and today is not like it used to be, and that was because of COVID. We have the same population or maybe a little different, but the habits are much more different than what we're used to. A lot of people working from home, other people, just different population, older population. That needs to be looked at with fresh eyes. And that is what the last project would entail. Does anyone have any questions?
So I am very excited to hear about when the comprehensive plan is done. We're very excited about that. And the parking study. I'm desperate to hear about the parking study.
Wait, about your house.
They're gonna park
Right,
by
but
the
yeah,
house.
there better not be parking by my house.
Great, thanks, Al. Appreciate it. Just two final items on the capital program. One is the property revaluation program that bases itself in the finance department through our assessor. This is a program that we budget funding to support both the statistical and the full revaluations. You do have a typo on the page. The upper right-hand program funding for this talks about 2 statistical revaluations. That's correct. In the bottom left-hand corner, you have one that says statistical, one that says full. So we're actually not up for a full revaluation. So the cost breakdown in the program funding of the reserve funds available at 33,386, plus the reimbursement in by 12/31/26, and then you got the follow-up on 12/31/29. Provide overall for a program funding of $229,000. So we're actually set at the end of this year for another statistical revaluation as we head into the next year. That's a very consistent program and one that I think catches many communities because they're not consistently budgeting for it. And our full revaluation will be about 3 times that amount. So it's something you do need to plan for in the future. The final item just talks about town hall improvements. You've got a short list of items between now and 2031. We have a reserve fund that's been established of just over $245,000. Additional funding of just over $213 will be accumulated over the next 5 years. And that'll address projects like working on the exterior doors in 2028, painting in this room in 2029, much needed improvements to the elevator in 2029, exterior painting of the building in 2030, which is a significant project of about $250,000. And then you have a siding on the addition in 2030 of about $47,000. So we're trying to get ahead of floor replacements and other things. It's a big building, and I think most people come in and are just wowed by the space. But I think as we all know, because we spend a lot of time here, that there are improvements that need to take place. There's carpeting replacements, VCT tile in the hallways, first floor, second floor need to be replaced.
Air conditioning.
Air conditioning, our windows, our original windows, all the sills need to be painted. A lot of them need additional work. So there's a lot more work that's not showing up in this plan, but I think we're starting to get ahead of it and at least starting to recognize some of the improvements that are needed. So that wraps up the initial presentation of the capital program. We're happy to, with the team here, answer any of the questions the council may have. You most likely won't see much of this program until it resurfaces with our budget submittal late April, beginning of May. And then you'll most likely, depending on how the operating budget proceeds, might see some modifications that have had to be made based on overall cost implications. So, but happy to answer any questions the council may have.
Other questions for the manager? I think that closes out this initial discussion of the capital improvement program. We do have a few department heads who are still here, and this might be a good opportunity to just thank you once again for all of the time, effort, energy, perseverance during our, I think it was called Winter Storm Geraldo. What was it? Hernando? Winter Storm Hernando, or Blizzard of 26.
I'm just glad I won't have to hear about the blizzard of 78 again. But
I think we'll continue to proceed on our agenda. We've closed out unfinished business, and we do have a new business item tonight. This is comprehensive plan update, phase 1, introduction and first reading. So just a little background before we turn it over to the manager and our planning director. In Rhode Island, cities and towns are required to update and readopt a comprehensive community plan every 10 years for review by the Rhode Island Division of Statewide Planning. And East Greenwich now is currently in the process of updating its plan. The comprehensive plan must identify the town's goals and policies for future growth and development over a 20-year horizon. This December, the town hired Libra Planners, a Providence-based planning firm, to assist our town staff, town council, and planning board in constructing our plan. One of the first things that Libra did after taking on this project was to develop a plan timeline and community engagement plan. So I'm going to ask our town manager to add his perspective on the comprehensive community plan and walk us through the community engagement timeline.
Great, thanks, Dr. Swiger. I'm here with legal counsel Andy Tights and our director of planning, Al Rinaldi. We all attended the planning board meeting this past Wednesday, at which time the planning board had an opportunity with Libra Planners, the consultants that were hired to work us through over the next year, the comprehensive plan process, to fully explain kind of where we are in the process. And they were tasked with conducting some business last Wednesday, and that was a review of the attachment that's included regarding an initial draft of a comp plan update in a particular phased approach that has been embraced by the community based on the timing associated with this approval process. So something that I think was incredibly helpful in that conversation and was a good overall conversation. I think the planning board members had excellent questions. I think the consultants did an excellent job of answering those questions and kind of laying the groundwork for proceeding over the next year with a significant process that's outlined in the engagement section. One thing I will note, because I'm sure it's very evident as you read through the document that you have this evening is a draft document. So there are errors in the document. There's wording that needs to be updated. There are references to history that needs to be updated. All of those were vetted before the planning board this past week. And the consultants have been tasked with preparing and updating that document for, should you advance this topic this evening, it'd be scheduled for a May 23rd joint meeting with the planning department at Swift Community Center, and then you would have before you an updated, clean version of that original draft plan. But a document that I think we spent just a short period of time this past week on, but I think is critically important for the community at this stage in the process is that is the engagement piece, which really walks us through the overall timeline. This document gives, I think, a nice overview of the process. It talks about the priorities that we're looking to achieve as a community as part of the whole comprehensive permit conversation. I'm sorry, comprehensive permit plan conversation. Get comp permits on my mind for some reason. The methods in terms of how we engage, and through website, through digital surveys, and through workshops that are going to be targeted interviews, public hearings, and other methods as well that I think will be critically important as knowing that the timeline for such updates in the comprehensive plan is much longer than it used to be. And really, this goes back to pre-COVID. The town is really going to look for an incredible modernization of this particular plan to really meet today's standards. I think it provides a nice visual in terms of the methods, in terms of the purpose, the reach, and the descriptions associated with the different ways that the consultants and the department and the town staff plan to communicate with residents. And then you get to a timeline, and I think it's, as Dr. Swiger noted, it really picks up where we're leaving off now, like this month of action before the planning board of the council to advance the process. You start off in April. And then between April and June, you have visioning and goal setting sessions. You move then to August where it's strategy development, then to October for policy trade-offs. You know, during that time period, you have 4 to 5 public engagement sessions that will occur of different forms. Then you get yourself to December where there'll be a draft plan developed based on all of the input that's been received. And then you'll be looking for feedback and approval as you move your way into next February 2027. Because I think as part of the communication process, not only with the board, but planning board, but with the community, the fact that our professional team felt it was important to advance the plan discussion in a different way than has been customary because of timing associated with the phased approach, that we felt that was critically important. But we felt good about the conversation before the planning board, between their communications with Andy and Al. I think the concept is now well received and much better understood. And I think the planning board just can't wait. I could sense the excitement of really being able to dive into this process and start to engage the community. And I think in talking with Al, I think and as Al has noted in terms of his role in leading this initiative, that the ultimate goal, initial goal of the draft was really to update the housing section of the plan. Although as you read through the plan, depending upon how you interpret it, you may say, boy, there's been significant change, and then some of you may say there hasn't been significant change. But I think it all comes back to the statistical update that's been provided in all of the sections that are included in the draft plan. You know, within that plan, you do touch upon areas like our natural resources, our outdoor recreation and open space, historical and cultural resources, community services and facilities, transportation, natural hazards and climate change, as well as land use. And, you know, and as we move through that, I would expect this draft to probably triple in size as the detail is added to the plan in areas that are not yet crafted as part of this draft. So I'm going to pause there. And tonight is really to secure your support to advance this plan to a first reading and to set a date, which we're recommending as of your next council meeting on Monday, March 23rd at Swift Community Center. But we have Al and Andy that are here that both actively participated in that conversation. We're happy to answer any questions or follow through with any other perspectives the council may have as to kind of where we stand in the process of the comprehensive plan update.
Yeah, so I had, a couple of questions about, I had spoken to Al about them before. And there was one area where I had requested a change, and I forgot to.
Is that in the draft document, Renu?
Yeah, it's in the draft document, and there was, here it is. It's on page 44 of the Libra plan. Excuse me. Or page 38. Their page 38 is my page 44. It's the bottom. It's on the affordable housing snapshot. It's the second paragraph. It starts with the current affordable housing is concentrated towards downtown. They had put in there permitting affordable housing as secondary dwelling in our different zoning districts and a density bonus for affordable housing in the farming, planned development and commercial zoning districts. I would like to strike farming out of that, please.
Renu, where is this located on?
This is on page 38 of the draft. It's the second paragraph down and.
Under affordable housing snapshot?
Yeah, under affordable housing snapshot.
Okay.
Excuse me.
You know, I think as part of the deliberations, there were a number of discussions that started to drill down to that level. And I think everybody agreed. I'm happy to make that change, Renu. I'm just noting what happened at the meeting is that there were a number of recommendations that were being made. One of them was very interesting, and it was a specific conversation associated with where we would be recommending. And I believe the chairman was engaging in a conversation, and I'm glad he circled back at the very end to clarify what he was saying. And it really came down to where in the community you would be recommending that affordable housing be looked at for potential development, because we know what happened in the last comprehensive plan where the Division Road project is on a parcel that is recommended in our comp plan for development.
Right.
So it was interesting because I think you find it in that paragraph as well, where it talks about should be targeted along Division Street between New England Tech and First Avenue.
Yeah, I had a bunch of questions about that paragraph as well, because that's already, it doesn't make any sense to me that property's already owned, it's already developed as residential. excuse as well.
That was discussed and I think will be somewhat changed. Will eliminate those targeted areas for this version.
Yeah.
In general, the goal is only to try, from what you have there to what we would expect at the public hearing, is to make the corrections, make sure we've got everything correct.
Wait, this
data.
is the first read for, and then
Oh.
the corrections would be made.
We'd have we'll have a draft that we're hoping we can get out to the public before the next meeting. And then at that meeting, we would present it as amendments to the draft that you have in front of you.
Okay.
We'd have a separate document with the amendments to this one, but we would bring those forward at the public hearing.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to make sure that this is, I know that this is just a temporary version. I just want to make sure that this is changed before we go forward with this.
I think that one paragraph, or those 3 paragraphs we're definitely talking about, those would have substantive changes.
Okay.
The rest of it was more of correcting things, making sure, proper names and the numbers and making sure and no typos. Getting that part would be the main change. But
So we're going to be looking at, so this first read, so the next meeting we have, this will be second read with public comment.
yes, that's the plan. At the next 2 weeks from now would be at Swift Gymnasium with the planning board. It'll be a joint public hearing with you and the planning board.
Okay.
The planning board was ready to vote on this past week.
Okay.
But it was felt that we should have them wait to the public hearing. They would obviously have to vote before you vote at the public hearing because they are recommending to you. But the plan is if everyone's okay with it, that on the 23rd, the planning board would vote to recommend it and that you would vote to approve it as second reading on the 23rd. And before we end this item, we should talk about the third reading issue. But let me stick to your questions on this version in the meantime.
Yeah, no, and then, excuse me, and there was the other question that I had was the map on their page 96. I had spoken to Al about this. Al's aware that I was not happy with that map. I'd like to have that changed as well. I don't agree with some of the areas that are proposed for new mixed-use zones, especially the area on Division and Shippeytown. And there's an area off of Crompton that's already residential. I don't think that should be there. I don't agree with any of it, actually. So just
Al,
FYI.
In the existing plan?
Yeah, I was going to say, is that the same map?
That's the existing
The same
plans
map.
Well,
So
no, it's not because I verified that. So part of it is part on the existing plan. Some of it is new. The Shippeytown and Division is new. That's not on the existing map for the thing. Or it's on this draft, but it's not on the current comprehensive, the 2014 version comprehensive plan.
Following our meeting on Friday, I
Oh, no.
communicated with her
Yeah.
and those will be removed.
Okay,
For
yeah,
the-
that's, I just wanted to make
The
sure.
addition that you get for the second reading will have those removed.
Okay, so yeah, I just want to make sure that because I caught those and those were the only 2 that I caught right off the bat. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Well, Ray knew something Al and I spoke about recently. I said, Al, I read the document and I am totally conflicted when I read the document, right? So this is going to come out in the public engagement as we go forward because we're trying to achieve all the benefits of preservation, right? And preserving what open space we have left. But at the same token, we're also trying to focus on development and housing need and commercial need and growth and services. And I think that is going to be one heck of a conversation for the community, Renu, over the next 6
You know
months.
what, I think the community has to understand. I mean, there is going to be some hard choices here, particularly for landowners, but I did want to address at least the farming, the density bonus for the farming and for that thing. I also think that it's heavy on the Division Road area for mixed use, not so much on other areas around town. And I think that is a conversation that we need to have as well. So, anyways, so I just wanted to make sure I understood what was happening today. So thank you.
Yeah, I think that's an important comment, Renu, is just that there'll be a lot of deliberation and workshops. I don't think any one individual on the planning board or the council can either unilaterally add or strike provisions of the plan, but they certainly can add to the conversation and bring it out at public hearing. And it goes back to staff to rewrite it and present it again as a draft as many times as we need to. But again, this is a very preliminary document. The first reading is just to accept the plan, the draft plan, and schedule a public hearing. Other questions from the council?
No.
If not, what I'd like to do is ask for a motion to accept the comprehensive plan update phase 1 at first reading and schedule for second reading and public hearing on March 23rd, which will be a joint meeting with the planning board.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries 4-0.
So before we move off this, as indicated, if you're not happy with it, or if the planning board isn't, if it's not ready to move forward on March 23rd, then it would be presumably continued. Your next meeting, because there's a 5th Monday in March, actually will be 3 weeks out, will be April 13th. So if you're not happy with it, that's presumably when it would be continued to. On the other hand, if you are, and I won't say happy, because it's not, I don't know that any of us are happy with it, but satisfied with it, and were to go ahead and pass it at second reading for the 23rd. The 24th is the anniversary date of the old plan. It will be too late on the 23rd to schedule a meeting on the 24th, because we have to have the 48-hour notice and so forth. What I would like to suggest is that you schedule a meeting, a special meeting for the 24th, so that if you are okay with it on the 23rd, we can bring it up on the 24th and have third reading and have it actually done by that timeline. If you're not, we'll just cancel that meeting. You don't have to cancel a meeting 48 hours ahead of time. You only have to schedule it. So if you're not happy with it, if you haven't adopted it on the night of the 23rd, then we would just cancel the meeting on the 24th. But we would need to know ahead of time now so that we can get it.
You want me to
advertised.
send my revisions in to you guys directly? I already talked to Al, but
I've already taken care of it.
Yeah,
Okay.
Al is the key. Al is the key there, and working with Libra, and we'll do it. And as indicated, you can even make further changes if you want that night. Although it'll have to be an amendment and voted and approved on by the council as an amendment to it. And we'll give you a whole package of them, but if you want to make other ones, you can do so as well.
Okay.
As I'm saying, I'm just trying to be optimistic. I know that's against my basic personality as a lawyer, but
On one hand, you are, and on the other hand.
right. So this is the yes part of the yes or no thing. Request that you set that special meeting for the 24th. And I wouldn't anticipate, if you're okay with it on the 23rd, third reading isn't for further discussion really anyway. It could be a quick meeting. You could even do it. I know that we have a zoning board meeting on the 24th, so you could do it like at 6 o'clock here, if that's, get it done. It doesn't even have to be a night meeting. It could be a day meeting. But I would like to suggest that.
okay.
If we aren't able to pass the third reading on the 24th, how much notice time do we have before that April 13th meeting? We'd have to do it notice 2 weeks if we're going to have a public hearing again on the.
No, that doesn't have to be noticed or advertised at all. Only the Secretary of State open meeting law notice. So for the 24th, it would have to be posted by the end of the day on Friday, the 20th.
Mhm.
So that you'd have Saturday and Sunday don't count. Then you'd have your 48 hours Monday and Tuesday, or whatever time you decide. If you decided to do it at noon on Tuesday, the 24th, you'd have to post it by noon.
But we don't need, oh, that's because it's the third reading.
That's correct.
Okay. We may need to extend, we may need to continue the second reading to the 13th. And that would require, we wouldn't have to
Right,
re-advertise.
that would just
With
be a
the-
motion to.
Right,
to-
if you're keeping the public hearing open, it would be a motion to a date certain. That encompasses
Yeah.
the notice.
I think it's also important that even if we close the public hearing and pass it at third reading, that's just phase one of the project.
Absolutely.
We're going to be going through the entire program in detail
Yes.
before we have a final.
That's where that LIBOR, that public engagement document comes into play as well. And will, it will proceed as it might otherwise have proceeded.
Right, so we do get really a second bite at the apple there to go through this. And I think Libra had mentioned that that is one reason that it may be an advantage to do a two-phased project.
I mean, in fact, you have more than, you have at least 4 bites at the apple. The law allows you to amend a comp plan 4 times a
And
year.
yeah.
And if you're amending it for the purpose of housing, it's unlimited how many times a year you can amend. So you're not stuck with whatever you've done.
Okay, so we've taken the vote on the motion already. So we've completed 8A and now we're on 8B.
Well, could you just decide on what you want to do about the 24th? About a meeting?
Yeah, I guess we can decide tonight or we still have.
Well, you won't have, it'll then be all in your hands.
Right, right.
So if you're comfortable with that, that's.
Well, I
fine.
guess we can take a,
You have the
poll.
power to schedule the special meeting without the others?
no, well, the poll here of who's going to be present on the 24th. Okay, so you're absent. How about
Mike is away, so you're down to.
Michael and Renu? Are you going to be?
I'll be here.
Probably be here.
Yeah.
I don't know where else I would go.
It's exactly at
Okay.
6 o'clock on the 24th.
So we can schedule a special meeting for the 20. Okay, I was going to do it in the morning,
Oh,
if that's possible.
That,
Tuesday.
Okay, then maybe we do,
I'm pretty much in court every morning till,
okay, then 6 p.m.
Yeah, 6 works for me.
Okay, we'll do it 6 p.m. Okay, thank you for getting us adequately scheduled here, Andy. Andy Tights.
Sorry to be pushy about it.
No, I think it's good to have that date at least available.
24th, okay.
Of March.
Okay, so this brings us to item 8B. This is a disclosure of executive session votes.
I just want to make sure we're going to go over the town manager's report because I do have a couple people who've asked about something in that.
Yeah, we'll finish that up. Disclosure of executive session votes from 2025, 24, 22, and 2021 per Rhode Island General Law 42464, release of votes. So under the Rhode Island Open Meeting Act, votes taken in executive session do not need to be disclosed if the disclosure would jeopardize a strategy or negotiations or investigations related to the purpose of the closed meeting. This non-disclosure is temporary and only applies for the period during which disclosure remains a threat to a sensitive matter. The non-disclosed votes on our agenda tonight are no longer part of an active investigation, negotiation, or legal strategy and can therefore be publicly released. So we have a list of these votes that were taken in executive session that can now be released attached to our agenda. Are there any questions or comments related to any of those votes from the town council? So this will release these votes publicly. The minutes will remain sealed, however. So I'd ask for a motion to disclose the executive session votes as enumerated in the agenda from 2025, 24, 22, and 21.
So moved.
Motion and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 4-0. And now we'll turn back to our town manager for his report.
Great, thanks. There's just a couple of things in the report that I want to note. First being that in the upcoming weeks, March 19th, we have the annual League of Cities and Towns Convention at the Crown Plaza. Really, it's turned into quite an event over the years. It's sells out faster each year in terms of vendors, speakers, and really has turned into a must attend type of event if you're a municipal official or employee in the state. So That's on March 19th. If any of the council or other members of the staff wish to attend, we just need to get on quickly this week and register. It's free, includes a box lunch, and has a fairly robust schedule of education sessions. So the two main items I have, one is a discussion on legislation, because I require some clarity from the council regarding any interest that you may have in pursuing, whether in the form of a resolution or other type of testimony support or backing of a particular piece of legislation, whether that be in a couple of the topic areas that we've discussed, whether it's in housing, whether it's in education, or whether it has anything to do with the governor's proposed budget for FY27. I also included as part of that, League of Cities and Towns is really ramping up their tracking of municipal linked legislation. So what I have included is their most recent report from March 9th through the 13th. And it covers a wide array. These are not necessarily all bills that may interest you, but they're all municipally related bills for that period of time. So that's included. And then really the final item would be just a quick storm update and for us to be able to answer any questions that you may have. I have Fred and Colby here tonight, so basically making up our EMA team. But happy to maybe start off with the legislative piece, and if the council can provide any direction, we can format in the form of a resolution or other type of response, any specific support for any piece of legislation that you'd like to.
So I've been asked by several people, and I actually agree with this on Senate Bill 2275. And I think you mentioned this in your report, the comprehensive permit approval pause. I don't know that I agree with the language in the Senate bill. There's some of the language I'm not necessarily sure that I agree with, but I do agree with the idea that we should seek or do whatever that's called, a resolution to have the comprehensive permit approval pause so that we can get credits for projects that are approved but not yet constructed. I think it would give us the ability to get some of the power back to the town. And there's really no reason, I've talked to Al about this, there was really no reason as to why it had to be shovels in the ground for it to count towards the 10%. As long as that we have the permitted approvals and they did shovels in the ground within the year. I know that I can get my fellow town council members, I'm sure, to agree with me on this, that we would like to get some of our control back on that. And that's really where I'm at. I'd like to talk about doing a resolution, either, I don't know if you can do a resolution in support of 2275, but change the language, or just do our own resolution saying we'd like to seek something like that. I've talked to Bridget about it. She's willing to put it forward if we do a resolution.
Well, resolution, we can just approve at the council level. As far as the bills, are they noted by bill number in your report, Andy?
He has an
The
addendum.
Senate 2275, actually, it isn't. At the time, some of this information was from the February 23rd meeting, so I carried it forward knowing we'd be talking about it, but I actually have the Senate bill in my hand, and so, yeah, it's 2275, Senate bill. And I don't disagree with Renew's comments. There's other language in this bill that you may or may not support, so I guess for me, it's more process. Would you like the town clerk and I, with others' support, to draft a resolution based on these comments and support, and then you would be able to modify that before you approve it?
Yeah, I think that would be great, actually.
I guess the other issue is timing, right? So it's really, I don't think these are things that you want to lag
No.
at this point, so we should have that prepared for your meeting on the 23rd.
Yes, please.
I think no later than that, I would,
Yeah.
you're looking to take a stance on this issue.
Andy, you had included in your email today two documents that I couldn't open: bill hearing report for housing and bill hearing history report for education.
Yeah. So on the state legislative site, I went in, looked at pending legislation, status update. So one of them is all of the housing legislation that's out there, and the second is all of the education. So that's where you'll find Senate Bill 2275 is in that list.
Yeah, that's right.
On housing.
I couldn't open that list though,
Okay.
those
The
documents.
agenda.
They attached? Okay.
I did send Andy a note already saying.
Yeah.
So I do support that as well. And Andy, and you're somewhere in the report that you said about legislative approval, you used the phrase is regarding housing, balanced growth that respects the local character. And that's something I think we would all support, because balanced growth would certainly not be 400 units off of Division Street. And infrastructure limits, another thing I think that I think kind of resolution that we might support.
But, we have a choice. We can write an independent resolution not attached to a bill. So, because I talked to our legislators and they had mentioned that there was two approaches, just a general resolution. That's one approach, just to give our opinions in general. Or we can, if we find a bill that we think is being introduced that we want to support, then we can pass a resolution in support of a bill, and we can offer our own modifications to the language. So if we see a bill we like, but there's a few parts that we would like revised, we can add that. So there are two strategies. We can do both. I think if we have a bill that fits our agenda pretty well, that it may be useful to support a particular bill.
So, I mean, that was my question, because 2275, while I agree with the intent of it, I don't agree with the language. If Andy and Lee or Andy Tights can put together something that basically follows that idea, but maybe doesn't, some of the language is a little bit, I think, vague and leads us to maybe just a bad place. I would like to see something that's specific for East Greenwich, because we don't put forward a lot of resolutions. I think this would be a big ask, or it would make a big statement for us to have a resolution saying that we would like to have that ability to regain local control.
Well, is there anything that you'd want to add? I haven't read the actual bill, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, the bill itself, there's a paragraph I would strike out. I mean, I would strike out the added paragraph on Bill 2275. I would strike out probably, sorry, I don't. It's paragraph V, for concerns for the environment, health, and the health and the safety of current residents have not been adequately addressed. That's too vague, and I think that could lead to a big problem between the town and the developer.
I think
It also gives you the ability to say, I'm willing to discuss this. I don't think we need to do it right now. I think.
Well, we do need to clarify it a bit because we'll need to bring it up at our next meeting.
Well, I'll send my thoughts into Andy and to Andy Tights and have them.
And I think, my approach would, I think there was some disagreement when I talked to our legislators that it gives us a little more of an impact if we comment on a bill that is actually before the legislators and is going to get a hearing.
Well, then I would say, I would then support this with the exception of that paragraph. I would not.
We can amend it or make some additional suggestions, but if we have a bill that fits most of our requirements, I think that just has more impact.
I don't know. I mean, Andy, what do you think? Does it make a difference?
I'm not sure it does it. Eventually, I think you're going to see some modified bills come forward. So the question is whether you start with a general support in the form of resolution and then wait and then formalize it, or do you do it now? I think 6 and 1, half dozen. I'm not sure it really matters.
Yeah, I think it's really too early in the season to tell what has any traction.
Yeah.
And what will benefit from support or not.
Gotten so many supports for this that other towns are supporting it. We've got that notification.
I think the basic concept of counting the units, right? I'm not
Right.
sure
Right.
why anybody would oppose it, like any community, even if you exceed 10%.
Maybe you just want to keep that simple.
Yeah, West Greenwich, Tiverton started it.
Yeah, I think
right?
everyone will support it going
Right.
forward. Honestly, I think there may be some traction there. Depends on what else is added on.
Yeah.
Bill.
I think it's the add-ons. And actually, I mean, talking to Al said there was really the way he understood, there was no reason why they didn't write it that way to begin with when they originally came up with it.
Well, can you draft us something which would include the important provisions for East Greenwich? And, share some of the same content that other resolutions have already put forward, that we could join in that same approach to support those changes, to count those units. But Andy, were there any other housing legislations, or either Andy, any other housing legislation that we might also want to have support of?
It talked on our, in the packet, I think in a couple meetings, we've talked about it. I think one is the whole comprehensive plan process, right? So there was discussion. I haven't seen a bill yet that talks about enabling statewide planning to have the authority to provide for an extension in time to allow a community like East Greenwich that's moving forward effectively, has a professional consultant hired, it's not there, or a community that may be caught in the window of a year going back and forth with statewide planning, making revisions, although they, and not have something that's formalized. So I think that there's some, I think personally, I think there's some value there. I think the other piece that I have to get some more information on is the governor's budget regarding that energy fee for solar agreements. So I'm meeting with our consultant in the next week to get answers to that question. If it's prospective, going forward, or we're safe, we may still want to oppose it. So I think there are a few. And then I think the other one, the major one, is that once, and I've yet to actually look at the legislation, really is the Rhode Island Foundation and their support of a new education aid.
Yeah,
They-
that was the other one. I thought
So-
that would be a good resolution to do, saying that we support that since it's more equitable to us.
It is.
And I would support that. I think it's important because we're getting, sort of whacked every single time we go up to the General Assembly for money.
So that's the short list. There's a couple. I'm
Yeah.
sure there are others that are in that list, but there's quite a bit there to sink your teeth into.
Yeah, no, I think that does give us some good material, and then our legislators may have signed on or sponsored some additional legislation. We can see what they're up to. Because the last time I spoke to them, the bills had not all been submitted. Now I guess the deadline for bill submission is complete.
And didn't, at our joint meeting with the school, they submit a resolution on talking about that too, funding for transportation?
Yes. Yeah, I'm not sure if they
I mean,
submitted it
of
or
course, they should have told us, and then we could have signed on to that, but you
I'll
could
check
still
with the
do that.
superintendent. Yeah, I can check with the superintendent.
So Andy, there seems to be some support for having some resolutions drafted for our next meeting. I guess counselors can send any comments they have. It seems like it would be the, what is it, the term that they use, comprehensive permit approval pause. That maybe the bill to allow Rhode Island planning to grant an extension on comprehensive plans, community comprehensive plans.
Low and moderate income housing procedure.
LMI, yeah.
I don't think the comprehensive permit pause is going to get anywhere. I don't think that's, I mean, there's so many bills that have been passed in the past, speakers' passage, bill packages. They explicitly amended the moratorium section to say, no, you can't use this to comp permits. So I think that's going to be hard to get anywhere through the.
Yeah, but what's the harm in sending a resolution?
Well, the harm is if you do too many, it dilutes the importance of the ones you send.
Yeah, but we've never sent in a resolution. I don't agree with that. We've never sent in a resolution. We send in resolutions so
They don't have a
rarely.
little thing that says, oh, East Greenwich has never sent us a resolution. We should pay attention to this one.
I think so.
I
I like to think that when East Greenwich speaks, people listen.
It's not only us, there's a lot of them.
Well, I think
That-
so. And there is one circulating that has like 6 points. It's circulating. I don't have it in front of me. That might be something to join on because it looks like everybody's going to sign on to that.
That's the one, the 2275. That's the bill. I was just saying that I support that bill. I just don't, there's one paragraph I don't agree with the language. I think it opens us up to problems. But I think we should send something in. I don't see any harm in it.
Andy, you said if we do too many of these, that will have no worth. But then you also said if East Greenwich does their first one, they're not going to care. So I don't understand which one is it.
No, I said, I don't think it would have no worth. I just think it dilutes the worth the more you send in.
Yeah, I know, but we
Better
haven't
to-
sent any in, and then you said they're not going to care. That's what I'm trying to say. It's like,
Well, on that one, I don't think they're gonna care at all.
okay,
That's my point on that one.
But there are a lot of.
On the other
towns that
hand,
are
if there's
doing
a they might adopt some of the stuff, but not all of it. That may be if there's real widespread support from the cities and towns.
Well,
many
if
cities
they're
have
listening,
Cinegon?
if they're listening to the cities and towns, there's quite a few cities and towns that are supporting this. Now, I get that maybe the speaker might not like it, but,
According which one, Karen?
275,
Which is which one? The pause?
yes,
Okay.
the well, I'm looking, the title is not a pause. The title is,
Comprehensive plan.
the
It's to count-
title is
it's to
related
count them at the building.
low and
permit.
moderate income housing procedure for
That's it, yeah.
approval. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, we've gotten, I don't know, more than half a dozen.
No, I didn't, nobody
And-
should
and-
oppose
and
it,
the-
actually.
Right, and the
It's-
fact that we haven't done this, I think, does add more credence to our cause.
Yeah, I think the key is, and I agree partially with what Andy's saying in terms of overloading them, although when you've done nothing, it's going to take us a long time to get to that point. I think the other point is these are not East Greenwich centric, right? We're not the only ones
Oh,
submitting
right.
it. I think that would be, maybe you want to die on that hill and you want to make a point. It's going to go nowhere, but both of these are supportive. Like, I don't know why you wouldn't support both of them. Because if you're a community, at some point, you're not going to have your comp plan in on time, or you're going to be stuck in a back and forth with statewide planning, and you're going to be beyond the period of time. So I think almost everybody's going to end up in that window where you want to count units that have a building permit that can help you. Maybe it helps you if you're over 10%, stay above 10% until they're quite finished and you don't slip behind. But I think a number of these bills will garner support outside of the town of East Greenwich. And then I think the other piece that goes into it is who do you align yourself with? So some of the proposals come, the communities that write the most, really, you don't always want to align yourself with
Yeah,
those.
that
right? So
I get.
so I think
That's what
that's
Andy's
important.
saying.
It's important to assess where it's coming from, who's sponsoring the bill, what's in the bill, what towns initiated the bill, because some of those communities are turning a deaf ear to because they're very constant. I give them credit for doing the work and submitting their position, but a lot of their wants just are never addressed. So we want to be selective about how you align your position.
And I think our legislators, I mean, we haven't told them too many times that we're really fighting for something. And I think so that's important.
So, and can we also include the Blue Ribbon Commission report, some support resolution for that? Where are you in your report?
Sounds good. Just one other item, and I included a lot of information. Some of it was provided to me by Colby Anderson, our Deputy EMA Director and Communications Coordinator, as well as our Director of the Department of Public Works, Fred Gomes, regarding the storm. And so I thought it was important, and we don't have to, we're gonna follow up eventually with the council with an after-action report that will be developed in the coming months once we know a little bit more about our FEMA submittals. But I included categories of information that if there was an area of interest that the council wanted to look at, there's really only one that I want to comment on, and then I'm happy to have Colby and Fred also add some additional comments. I think it's easy for a community to just quickly move past what just happened. But it's something that will be very long lasting for everybody who lived it every day and providing the service support. So I think, and Mark, you say this at times, a lot of times the community members just don't know that we're doing something, and it's important to memorialize it, to review it, for it to gain traction. But there was a lot that happened in that 1 week in this community in terms of our public safety responses, in terms of our struggles, and we're happy to admit what those struggles are. Fred was up tonight talking about our capital plan and the various equipment. Actually, all of that equipment that was noted would have been helpful in this event if we had a new loader, we had a new larger dump truck. But these are just normal things that we're replacing as we go through the process. But for us, it all comes together as to the fact that we know we're probably not going to see another storm. Who knows, right? Knock on wood, another storm like that for 10 years, maybe more. It's the first time we've seen a storm like that in the history in Rhode Island, right? A storm with that amount of snowfall in that period of time. But it's critically important that we plan for it and then we balance costs. So when we were talking about the capital project, you know, for us to respond to that storm, you'd have to buy another half a dozen large pieces of equipment that would really sit and not get much use while we're waiting for that one event to happen. And that's not really something that any community or city can afford to do. So I started to capture information, but I would say the one thing that has come up most often for me in my communications with the public is the timing. The timing of the event, the timing utilized by the state in reopening services, the declaration of emergency, the travel ban instituted by the governor, locally, how we slowly brought services back online, and then ultimately how that all happened and why were decisions made the way they were made, the way they were made. And I think a lot of that had to deal with the reopening of school. So school is a decision, I think the superintendent noted it publicly and a number of times, really is a decision of the district. But when you look back at the timing, and I understand it, and most of us here are parents, right? We understand what it takes in today's society to manage a family. You have kids who are going to school. You just finished February vacation, and all of a sudden everyone's going back, and you've got another agenda, whether you've got a two working family household where you've got to balance those needs. Maybe one's working, but the other one's going to deal with other things. And now you have one or more kids home with you for another week. It's not just a day or two, it's a full week. So we understand the staff, everybody that worked the storm. We understand the stress that that brings. We understand the demands on families. But when you look at this event, we mobilized on Saturday. The event started on Sunday and went through Monday. Didn't end till Monday night here, right? So end of Monday, the day was pretty much over. 3 feet of heavy wet snow. There is no town, the state of Rhode Island, no agency that had enough equipment on hand to manage their community alone. That's the reason why Rhode Island EMA and the governor immediately reached outside of Rhode Island, because even with local contractors, other private contractors, MPA contractors for the state, it still wasn't enough. It was not enough to actually get us open as quickly as we possibly could. So what we saw unfold, those who were in the EOC, talking to other communities, those who are on the governor's call, you saw the timeline start to play out. And it was early in the week that I think most of us here thought, we're closed for the week. Like we never, and I think the staff will laugh when I say this, I don't like to close ever, right? So what I typically do is say, we're going to stay open. You can make it in, great. If you can't make it in, use your own accrued leave. That's typically my line, right? So everybody kind of laughs when I say that. So for me to close Monday was impossible. Close Tuesday, and to slowly, with the help of DPW and a lot of contractors, get enough cleared at 111 Pearson at Town Hall to be able to open our facilities took a Herculean effort for us to open them. And the reason why we opened is because public safety was so inundated with calls that we needed to bring staff back in to Town Hall, because as a resident, you call who you're most familiar with. I know Lee in her office gets a ton of calls. Now, that's not necessarily the place you call for storm-related response, but if I'm comfortable talking to Lee and her staff, I'm calling there to get my information. So when we opened up Town Hall at noon on the Wednesday. Other offices at DPW and engineering and building opened up earlier that morning at 111 Pierce. Everybody was receiving calls in our ability to service the residents. So that was all day Wednesday. Fred will tell you, and I'm not going to put words in his mouth, there was no way for a standard community member and a standard type of vehicle to be able to navigate this community safely on Wednesday. That was just not possible. So what happened at that point is we started to really evaluate the resources that we had available, the type of equipment that we needed, both Colby, who was on the phone nonstop with state officials, REMA officials, other contractors, the network that he has, other members of our staff have, Fred and his team has, was able to cobble together a request that garnered some traction through Rhode Island EMA. And so immediately on that Wednesday going into Thursday, we started to have larger scale equipment come into town, which was the first step. And then with a relentless push by staff over the next day or more, we were able to secure additional equipment that was really life-altering for our ability to respond to the storm and to be able to open up more than one narrow lane down a street in town, which I think is pretty much what we all had. Some roads were a lane, lane and a half. Others were maybe one lane. At the same time, police and fire were responding to well-checked calls. We had residents and family members who are outside the community who could not make contact with many of their parents and older family members that were here in the community. The fire department underwent incredible struggles with their equipment, being able to navigate the community and to be able to respond to emergencies. And it was only the coordination and collaboration of the various departments as well as our outside contractors that made that all possible. So this is all happening during the week. Now, just so you know, I still get phone calls today that people don't understand why school wasn't open on Wednesday and Thursday. So what I've done with them is try to outline it such that there was one district in the state of Rhode Island, one was Burrillville, which is normally the place that would close. They normally get the most snow. Well, they didn't. They had about 25 inches, about a foot less than what we had here. So they're more prepared to deal with snow. It's more rural. They don't have as much of an urban area. They don't have a lot of curb lines. And so it was more of a rural area where it's more residential, and they were able to open up roads and go back in person on Thursday. A handful of other towns, school districts, were able to go in on Friday. So we communicated, and I will say at times I get frustrated in communicating with some within the community because there are times when, to me anyways, and I interpret it this way, and I may be the only one, that there are those who are trying to drive a wedge between the municipal operation and our school operation. That there's anything but the truth happened during this event. We had an incredible coordination and collaboration between our school district staff. They have pickup trucks, ill-equipped to plow out roads, ill-equipped to plow out school parking lots. You needed large-scale equipment. You needed loaders, large-scale triaxle trucks, as well as some of our larger dump trucks just to move the snow. So we went through that whole process. And, you know, we understood that there was high-level coordination happening. So we were able to reassign our assets, and that means town staff, school staff. The work, the equipment that was brought in was incredible in terms of the triaxle dumps, which most of their runs were to Scalloptown Park in terms of eliminating snow, the number of loaders, the number of skid steers that were brought in, which really allowed us the specialized type of equipment. And at the same time, freed up our people, just like it freed up by opening town hall, it freed up public safety to focus on their needs so that we could handle the facilitation of calls by residents who had an abundance of needs in the community. So when we finished the week, and I'll make this short, we're finishing the week, we understood on Thursday that we needed a few days to be able to have it ready. So if it was Wednesday, we probably could have opened on Friday. But it was Thursday, and we were not prepared yet. Our sidewalks had not been done. Most of our sidewalks in town were cleared on Friday and Saturday and Sunday, mainly once we mobilized the contractor equipment plus our own. So there was a level of risk, right? So I think all of us understand living in Rhode Island, you know, one child gets left on a bus, one child is delayed, like in the last blizzard in '78. Those incidents have a lasting impression on policies in school districts, when you make a call, how conservative you are in making a call. Also has an impact on public safety, how when we feel comfortable opening things up. I think we all understood, having been driving around for 3 days in terrible conditions, that there was no way that our school buses were going to be able to navigate equitably and maybe on a few roads and pick up students of all different levels, elementary, middle, high school, and to be able to get them safely to school. We knew that it would take us until the weekend to have our sidewalks thoroughly cleared and ready to be able to, for us to be confident, for parents to have confidence letting their children still walk to school without driving them. So we knew that was going to take us through Saturday. And ultimately on Sunday, we just cleaned a few things up going into Monday's time. But we're still, and I'm giving the speech because we're still having interaction with community members that just felt, for some reason, and I have to believe it's because of their lack of familiarity, I'll say, with the process and what goes into reopening a community after an event like that. And I think some of them are treating it like a regular winter storm. So if we had, and I've said this to a couple, if we had 6 to 10 inches or a foot of snow, I think we're open in 2 days, one day, depending on the timing, maybe the next day, but probably the day after to be ready. But in this event, you have to recognize what occurred, why it occurred, the resources. And I'm defending all the stakeholders today because in these conversations, there are times when it's the town's to blame, the school department's to blame, the state of Rhode Island's to blame, and really there's nobody to blame in this event. And actually, and I don't say this often, I think the council knows I'm very critical of state government at times and our partners that don't always partner well with us. But I think, you know, there's probably no better result that we could have achieved than what we did. So I'm happy to have Fred and/or Colby add a few comments to that. I tried to just give just a snapshot of what's happening and would appreciate the council. And these are very few people, just so you know. I think the general populace understands the severity of the event. Rhode Islanders understand it, knowing we haven't had anything like that as crippling. And clearly, this was a much less storm, but much more crippling, less crippling than the last blizzard, right, in '78. So
I just want to say, we just got more snow than we've ever seen before. We're a town, you want us to buy another 20 trucks that we're not going to use until 2052, we could do that and just wear them, you know, warehouse them. I thought you guys did a good job. I did notice the roads were very narrow because there was so much snow, you're still working it. I don't see how you would want a school bus driving on those roads, having students standing in the roads that are 2 to 3 feet off the normal place they would stand because there was so much snow, so much embankments. They wouldn't be able to stand there. You guys made the safe choice and the right choice, and I just want to say that for the record.
and we appreciate that, Mike, and we know it wasn't perfect. Like, we know we're going to do an after action. We opened up new communication channels. I thought communication worked well, not perfect. So we're happy to go back. We're happy to take input. We're happy to process the input. But in the same token, we want to make sure we educate people as well as to what it takes to close down. I mean, we eliminated, as the council knows, we canceled meetings for a week. We eliminated all senior and recreational services for the week. There were no outside support services that could get to us. We couldn't hold a congregate lunch program at the senior center because we couldn't get the food for them. And nor would we put them in jeopardy by putting them on roads that are dangerous. So we understand the nuances and we understand the pressure and the stress at home. We totally get it. We were all in the middle of it. And the whole team that basically dug us out, you know, they leave their family at home, right? They leave their family at home. They leave their kids at home, their spouse at home.
Curious, like,
There would have been more complaints if you didn't cancel school.
yeah.
Just from what I would
I'm
say.
just curious. I mean, Colby, how many calls did you get through this whole event? I mean, every time I heard you were constantly posting stuff.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks.
And what kind of calls? I saw complaints starting almost, 12 hours after the snow started. That's stopped.
Certainly. So I obviously, as Andy mentioned, my role kind of started at Saturday once we kind of knew what was going to come in. That was really, we didn't have a lot of advance notice for this. It just kept changing. Throughout the storm, I think Fred and I worked, what was it? Sunday, we got in around like early morning and that ran until about 2 a.m. on Wednesday morning. So pretty much going round the clock. And then beyond that, we dealt with pretty much once those outside crews started to roll in, we were dealing with like a little bit of sleep here and there, just trying to coordinate with them. And that ran all the way until about Saturday-ish.
Yeah.
Saturday, Sunday. But a lot of the calls that we got, at least in the EOC initially, were to deal with the coordination. So working with, all of our different departments and trying to get everybody, together. A lot of it was, we lost our phones initially. So that was a big, issue for us to deal with. Power was a big issue as well, but working with Rhode Island Energy to prioritize where our outages were. Mentioned in that report was how the Fire Station 2 lost power. We were potentially having to relocate them to Station 1, which would have been a huge public safety issue. So we worked directly with Rhode Island Energy to send our plow trucks down to their Narragansett facility and give them a plow escort up to the location where we had an outage. Just to mention on the call types, I think it was Tuesday when we started getting a lot of resident calls. And I think what Andy's mentioning there is just, understanding how you have to prioritize this, right? In a natural disaster, you set incident objectives. So by Tuesday night, we really wanted to get at least a lane width open so that the crews could go home and sleep, because that was critical. It was dangerous for them to be out of the road at that point. And by us having a lane width open that night, if fire or rescue needed to go out, they could. And the stopgap that we added on top of that, so I live locally, I took a 550 truck home with a plow, backed it into my driveway, and when there was a medical emergency or something, went out on the road. So there was a lot of thought that went into how we did these operations. Add to that at all?
Yeah, so as far as the first line bonds, as far as snowplow drivers, those guys reported to work on Sunday at 6 p.m. They didn't go home until
11 p.m.
11 p.m. on Tuesday. So that's 53 straight hours that these guys worked. They took a little bit of a break during the worst of the storm, just because it wasn't safe to be out on the road anyway, so they couldn't see where they were plowing. So we pulled them off the road. They took a little bit of a break, but then they went back at it. So we sent them home at 11 o'clock on Tuesday night. They came back the following day, 9 a.m., kind of let them sleep in a little bit. 9 a.m., kind of, see their family, see how they're doing. Because like Andy said, everybody has a family. You're here working 53 hours. Your own driveway's not getting done.
Yeah.
You don't know if your wife and kids are okay. So this is hard on those guys as well. So they came in at 9, they worked 12 hours, they were home at 9 p.m. And then they came back the next day. And like Kobe said, we did this until Saturday. And then even on Sunday, we had a couple of guys come in to finish opening up the sidewalks. So by Sunday, we were confident that all the school lots were done, all the sidewalks around the schools were done, all the normal sidewalks that people could possibly take to school were all done. We were open all the way down to Post Road. Post Road was open all the way down to the North Kingstown line on Sunday. So it was a big effort on everybody, every department. But yeah, we spent a lot of time in here.
We have a lot of problems with private plows getting stuck on our roads.
So
They couldn't get to the houses because I walked down to Route 1 from my house.
yeah,
Probably not the brightest idea, but I did. And there were plows stuck everywhere.
yeah. So
Was stuck
one of
on
the
my
things that
street,
we started running into on Monday was, so now everybody is either out on a private plow or the fire department was inundated with phone calls. So they're getting wellness check calls. They're getting, the other thing that we started to run into was everybody with a later furnace that exhausts out the side of the house. Right?
Generator.
Well, the furnace is, the exhaust is 2 feet off the ground. You have 3 feet of snow. Now all the CO alarms are going off in the house. So the fire alarms are responding to these things. Their trucks aren't made to drive in 3 feet of snow. So they're getting stuck. They're calling us. So now we're pulling our plow drivers off of their routes to go help the truck drivers, the fire department that are stuck and get them to the hospitals or whatever needed to be. So we were getting pulled in every which direction because there was just so many vehicles out that was stuck. Some of them were first responders, but a lot of them were just, hey, I want to go see, I want to get a head start on this private park.
Somebody online said they'd pay somebody to go pick them up some cigarettes.
So
You know, Renu and I were on social media a lot, Facebook a lot, commenting. In fairness, there weren't very many people who were complaining. And we did respond to the people who were. And in my development,
Yeah,
and
I saw you guys actually.
and in my development, we have a group. There was not one person not one who said to me, why isn't the road open? And it was open on Wednesday. And there are a lot of physicians in my development, and if I would have thought they might complain, not a one. So the few people, of course, stand out. The ones that were complaining, and mostly, like you said, about the school. And I reminded a couple, did you not remember Monday and Tuesday? Because that's ridiculous. And forget, you're not going to serve food at school. The buses aren't going to get there. The teachers don't all necessarily live in East Greenwich. So where are they coming from? Think a little bit.
Definitely, and I think one of the highlights that we can take away, first time we've had a full-blown emergency operations center in town because of the investment that you guys made in public safety most recently. So, and we're only in, I'd say we're about 85–90% there. We have a couple little things left to add into that room to finish it off. But by us opening that, it streamlined our ability to coordinate higher response. But this really was a whole of community response. Everyone from, parks, schools, we had the ACO giving us a hand doing traffic when we were trying to clear Main Street, right? We had the police department lend a vehicle to the fire department so that they could go out and clear hydrants. All of, the school department was assisting us so that our guys could focus on plowing the streets. They would go out with them to give them a plow escort, right? Just because all of these things, we were trying to prioritize that public safety piece more than anything and just get the entire community back up on its feet. And when those outside resources came in, that was critical to help us, clear Main Street. Main Street was the last thing that we did. Myself and one of the newer DPW crew are out with them all night, just making sure everything was done on Main Street before we left. And you saw the pictures of the massive pile that was in place there. So Sunday at 7 a.m., it was very nice to go home and get some sleep. So,
some people would talk about how 2 feet in New Hampshire or Vermont or upstate New York, that gets cleared in a day. And that's because they have the equipment to do it, because they have that all the time. I think it was Minnesota this year, they had 2 inches and they had to shut the state down for 2 to 3 days on 2 inches. So you got to think, we are not a place that gets 2.5-foot storms, never mind 3.5. So you have to be, should Michigan go out and buy 100,000 plows to plow the state when they have snow once every 25 years or once every 50 years? I think you guys, did I say Michigan? I said Minnesota.
Minnesota, it snows like.
you're talking about Georgia.
Mississippi. I am so sorry. Mississippi had 3 inches of snow. Kids flew home from college. They shut the whole place down.
Went to school in Atlanta. The same thing happened. We had
So, you have to realize where we're at, I thought we did a very good job for what we had. I really do. And I actually think the state did a good job. The roads were pretty clear.
Good.
I can't say the same for Providence, but then again, they already had a ton of snow from the last one they didn't get rid of.
And I'll tell you, Mike, we're just trying to showcase what happened, not for this, right? Not for trying to respond to some, there's a lot of legitimate concerns out there, is that we want to talk through the process, right? Colby wasn't here a couple of years ago. Basically, it was a group out of Fred's office that used to make up, there's 3 DPW members that made up the town's emergency management response. So we want to be able to just showcase what's being done, the fact that the council purchased the snow blower for the equipment the town had, and it showed up 2 days after the storm and was a critical piece of equipment, was timing coming out of DPW to get it ordered, find the piece of equipment in Maine, just so that people understand. So we're trying to push out information. Believe me, we do things every single day that we absolutely are subject to criticism for. Nobody's perfect. But I think overall, we feel good about the result. We're happy to report out later once we're going through the FEMA process now. We're in the middle of federal reporting. We're trying to recover hundreds of thousands of dollars that we did spend as part of that process, as well as the state of Rhode Island. So we'll report back to the council on that as we go forward.
The new DPW that we're building, do you think that will be help? Do you think some of the equipment
Oh,
broke
no.
down because it wasn't properly stored because we
No
don't have the
question.
storage room?
No question. Yeah.
So, we're trying to fix things that way. We're less likely to have breakdowns if our equipment is properly stored and not out in the snow and, all right, so
We just want to tell the story, and that's okay, because even if you
I want
do
to tell
it-
more of a
even,
story.
even if you do it the way you think should be done, clearly there's another way you could do it. So there's someone else who's going to have another opinion. They've done it differently somewhere else, and that's fine. And we're happy to
And this is,
engage.
but
in
this
these
is a perfect
conversations.
example why we didn't need the new DPW badly.
Yeah, we do need it.
So,
No, I just think you guys did an amazing job. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. I live on Division, and even the state didn't come by. I was like, oh my gosh.
We're
It was-
working,
I mean, it was
they're working
amazing.
on a public engagement site about snow removal. So we're hoping in several weeks from now, we're hoping to be able to launch that so people can go to one site and see how we do things, how things are prioritized, where the information is, who to call for what, how we communicate with the public. So we'll start to move and use some of the technology that we have as well. I think the other thing that we're all familiar with, as you know, I spent a lot of time in Vermont. So they have trackers, state plows. So my family's always tracking the plows where they are. So you saw that recently. I think Mayor Smiley was talking about that in Providence. So those are the kind of things, if there's a way that we can make you feel more comfortable for a resident, and if it's to know if I can track that plow truck that's in my neighborhood and they blew right by my street and didn't come down it, you're going to know it, right? You're going to be able to hit the button, be able to look at it, know the last time they went into a neighborhood on what street. So we're looking at all those kinds of technologies. But again, we're a small town, so we're implementing as fast as we can implement. And I think overall, we felt good about the event, and clearly there's room for improvement. So
Oh,
we
that's
just
so
want to
good.
make sure we educate the public. That's
And there were like 1,100 people without power. So I think you were talking to me a little bit, Colby, about how important it was for the police and fire and you to make sure they were okay, to see if they wanted to go to the warming centers.
A
and
lot of different individuals, especially the elderly population was a big one where we were getting phone calls about that. So it was fire, police, myself, a lot of us going out to check on different people. One of the biggest challenges was obviously the CO issue, but it doesn't help when people are cold and they're using their gas burners, right? Because that creates another issue. So as we were checking in on those people, trying to get them to go to warming shelters, people don't always want to, right? But when it got to an emergency point, we really pushed and got those people where they needed to go. But we really worked hard with Rhode Island Energy, even dedicating our own crews to say, help clear a tree if they couldn't get a tree crew out there, because we knew how critical it was to get the residents back into power, especially our elderly population that might not have had anywhere else to go.
And for what it's worth, I serve lunch at the senior center all the time. Those people love you. And not one of them complained to me about the fact that the senior center wasn't open that week. They knew, yes. Now, they did tell me in the blizzard of 78 that they did walk to school. But so you got kudos from them. It really is a fraction of the population, so don't let that bother
Not
you.
old enough that,
What?
they're not young enough to walk to school.
They walk to school. They're older people at the senior center.
Probably
Huh?
have kids that
They're
they said walk
25
to
years old, some of them.
I was in school. They're that. Thank you very much for everything you did. And I've plowed before. If you just want to call me, pick me up, I'll be more than happy to do that. I actually did that for years.
Thank you. Thanks for your remark.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Nada, and for all the staff that's remaining.
Thanks for your patience through that.
No, it's an important thing, and I think it's, as you say, getting that on an engagement site would be great to have that as a resource. We're moving through a few items and then getting to an executive session. We have public comment. Anyone in person or online will hold public comment. Mr. Gonzalez, no comments. You're hanging in there. Council announcements and comments?
There's just there's a bunch of sports teams that won stuff recently. And now, of course, I can't think of it off the top of my head. I just like to do some commendations for them.
I'm sorry, which team is this?
There were like a bunch of high school sports teams that won stuff recently, and I can't remember. I didn't write
I
it
don't
down.
know anymore because your son is in college.
I was only because I was away this weekend. Otherwise, I just went to a game the other day, but, who won?
She
Hockey.
doesn't know.
Hockey was doing well. They won.
Got to check East Greenwich News and see what happened.
A team, sports team.
Okay, we do have an executive session tonight, so I'll ask our town clerk to read us into executive session.
Motion to convene into executive session per Rhode Island General Law 42465, A2 and 5 for the approval of executive session minutes from February 2nd and February 9th, and for sessions pertaining to litigation, specifically Town of East Greenwich versus the Division Group, and one parcel of real estate commonly known as 1727 Division Road, case number KM 2023-0625, and for sessions pertaining to discussions or considerations related to the acquisition or lease of real property for public purposes, specifically Bosch Farm, and Rhode Island, and I already said that, for litigation, case number 2025-1228, East Greenwich versus Agricultural Lands Preservation Commission.
So motion to reconvene in executive session.
So moved.
All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries 4-0. We will reconvene across the hall. When executive session ends, we will come back to open session to report out the results. Okay, we have concluded our executive session. We are now back in open session, and I'll report out the results of the executive session. 11A, the minutes executive session from February 9th and February 2nd were unanimously approved 3-0 with Councilor Zarella absent. 11B, action was taken. 11C, no action was taken. I'd ask for a motion to seal the minutes.
Second.
Motion and second. All is in. I said action was taken. Okay, yeah, no action taken on C. So we're going to have a motion to seal the minutes of the executive session. All is in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?